Chapter 3279. Ocean of Cloud City was a super city in the eastern continent, so the people who lived here were naturally more knowledgeable than the people from other places. So, they'd basically heard about the people and matters of the Blood Hall. This person is actually Elder High of the Blood Hall? In that case, wouldn't everything that Qin Feiyang said be true? Clang! Suddenly, a loud explosion resounded as a crimson-red sword appeared in the sky above, and it slashed down like a bolt of lightning towards the spatial passageway. That's right. That was the sovereign weapon of the Demon Hall. Qin Feiyang was stunned. Elder Hua gazed at the crimson-red sword with a puzzled expression. Didn't the Hall Master and Chu Yun take the sovereign weapon back? Following that, a tall and beautiful woman appeared out of thin air. Who else could it be but Chu Yun? Bang! The sovereign weapon slashed down, and the spatial passageway immediately collapsed. The middle-aged man fell out of the spatial passageway while covered in blood. Because he hadn't been teleported away, once the passageway collapsed, the teleportation would be interrupted. As for the injuries on his body, they were naturally caused by the crimson-red sword. Swoosh! Elder Hua and the Hall of Famers recovered from their shock and instantly flashed over as well. Before the middle-aged man could react, they directly took out a face-restoring pill and stuffed it into his mouth. What's that? The middle-aged man was shocked. Elder Hua and the Hall of Famers didn't answer. They just surrounded him with Chu Yun and the crimson-red sword. Very soon, the middle-aged man's appearance started to change. In the end, an aged face appeared before everyone's eyes. Wasn't that Elder High? That's right. He's the vice leader of the Blood Hall, Elder High. I've seen his portrait in the past. Someone instantly roared. Bastard! Your Blood Hall is really going too far. Isn't it enough that you arranged for a spy to come to our eastern continent? You actually came here personally to stir up trouble. You're the vice leader of the Blood Hall at any rate. Aren't you ashamed of doing such despicable things? Everyone was furious. They'd never seen such a shameless person. They looked at Elder High again. Not only had his plan failed, but he'd even been caught red-handed. It was obvious how he felt at this moment. Qin Feiyang also landed beside Elder Hua. He looked at Elder High with a smile and asked, "Do you feel like killing someone right now?" Old High clenched his fists. What a pity. Not only can you not kill anyone now, but you'll also be scolded. Qin Feiyang smiled playfully and sent a voice transmission, "But I still have to thank you. If it weren't for your appearance, I wouldn't have been able to convince everyone so easily." Old High's appearance was tantamount to helping him, completely eliminating the doubts in everyone's hearts. Now, no one would doubt his words. They would all believe that this was a rumor created by the Blood Hall. The most important thing was, Old High's ruckus had aroused the anger in everyone's hearts. The people of the eastern continent would definitely unite against the Blood Hall in the future. In other words, in terms of the overall situation, the people of the eastern continent were united. Qin Feiyang, Old C glared at Qin Feiyang, gnashing his teeth. Suddenly, he spat out a mouthful of blood. That wasn't the point of going for wool and coming back shorn. The point was that he didn't know what others would say about him after this incident. Because not to mention anything else, just the fact that he'd changed his appearance, hid in the city, and sowed discord was sufficient to destroy his reputation. The more he thought about it, the more furious he became. All of this was caused by this little bastard. Even if he died, he would make him pay the price. Bang! Suddenly, a destructive aura charged out from Old High's body. Shit! He's going to detonate himself. Qin Feiyang roared. Let's die together. Old High's face was ferocious, and he laughed madly before his body exploded in midair. Clang! At the same time, the crimson-red sword emanated a dazzling divine light that instantly condensed into a barrier that protected the entire city. Old Hua led Qin Feiyang, the fire dragon, and Zhuo Tianxing into the barrier. Chu Yun and the Hall of Famers naturally didn't dare act carelessly. After all, this was the self-detonation of a peak sovereign. Besides a sovereign weapon, no one could stop it. Crack. Rumble. In just an instant, the sky above the city was covered in chaos, and the terrifying aura was still spreading towards the outside of the city. It seemed like it could destroy the heavens and the earth. The crimson-red sword shook while divine might surged towards the surroundings, and the fluctuations of the explosion were instantly forcefully eliminated. The space there started to slowly return to calm. Little Yun, what are you doing here? Old Hua turned around and gazed at Chu Yun with a puzzled expression. The hall master was slightly worried, so he asked me to come and have a look. I never expected that I would really encounter a big fish. Chu Yun laughed coldly. He is a big fish. But he detonated his body so readily this time. Obviously, he'd learned his lesson and left his soul in the blood hall before he came to the eastern continent. Qin Feiyang pondered. It doesn't matter. In any case, his reputation is bound to spread far and wide. Chu Yun waved her hand indifferently. That's true. Qin Feiyang nodded with a smile on his face. In the future, Old Hai would be a disgrace to the blood hall, and everyone would disdain him. If he dared to come to the eastern continent again, he would probably be despised even more. In short, Old Hai's reputation was ruined. For Qin Feiyang and the others, it was a win-win situation. When everything calmed down, the crimson-red sword disappeared into Chu Yun's body. Qin Feiyang lowered his head and looked at the people in the city. He smiled and said, I don't think I need to say anything more now. No need, we believe you. Those bastards from the blood hall will pay the price sooner or later. Everyone roared angrily. Thank you. Everyone, please tell each other to stop believing in those rumors. Qin Feiyang had a pleading look on his face. Okay. By the way, are the Alliance Master and the others dead or not? Everyone looked at Qin Feiyang suspiciously. Thank you for your concern, but there are some things that we can't say, so I hope you can understand. Qin Feiyang smiled apologetically. All right. You must work hard and kill those bastards from the blood hall. If you need our help, just say it. Although we're not strong enough, we have a lot of people. As long as we work together, we can definitely get rid of this tumor. Someone roared. If you need us, we won't be polite. Qin Feiyang smiled slightly. Elder Hua looked at Qin Feiyang and said with a smile, since the matter has been resolved, we'll go back first. Thank you. Qin Feiyang sincerely thanked Elder Hua and Chu Yun. If it wasn't for the Demon Hall taking a step back, this matter wouldn't have been resolved. Elder Hua smiled and didn't say anything else. He nodded at Chu Yun. Chu Yun immediately waved her hand and opened a space-time portal. The two of them quickly left. After sending the two of them off, Qin Feiyang looked at Zhuo Tianxing beside him and said with a smile, Uncle, how have you been? Seeing Qin Feiyang call him uncle in front of the Hall of Famers and show so much concern for him, Zhuo Tianxing couldn't help but feel nervous. Don't be afraid. I've really reconciled with the Rogue Cultivator Alliance. Master and the Hall Master already know about our matter. Qin Feiyang said with a smile. Really? Zhuo Tianxing was stunned. Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded. Zhuo Tianxing felt like he was dreaming. He asked, then in the future, Xiaoxian and I, you don't have to hide anymore. Qin Feiyang smiled. That's great. I've been looking forward to this day. Zhuo Tianxing was overjoyed. He looked at the Hall of Famers and bowed. Hall Master, thank you. No need to thank me. On the contrary, we should be thanking you. The Hall of Famers waved his hand. Thank me? Zhuo Tiansheng was stunned. The Hall of Famers chuckled and said, if it weren't for your daughter, Zhuo Xiaoxian, would we have been able to keep Qin Feiyang and Frenzy, these two talents? Ha! Hearing this, Zhuo Tiansheng couldn't help but laugh dryly. Seeing this, the Hall of Famers couldn't help but shake his head and smile. Then, he looked at Qin Feiyang and said, then I'll go back first and tell old Yi the good news. You guys can catch up. Okay. Qin Feiyang nodded. What about you? The Hall of Famers looked at the fire dragon again. It's none of your business. The fire dragon glared at him. Okay, do whatever you want. The Hall of Famers smiled bitterly and looked at Qin Feiyang. When you leave, go back to the Alliance capital and say goodbye to everyone. Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded. You must take good care of the fire dragon. The Hall of Famers secretly reminded him and then opened an altar and left. After Zhuo Tiansheng watched the Hall of Famers leave, he looked at Qin Feiyang and said with a smile, let's go. Follow me to the city lord's mansion. Okay. Qin Feiyang nodded. Then, the two of them and the fire dragon flew toward the city lord's mansion. Entering the city lord's mansion, Zhuo Tiansheng couldn't wait to see Zhuo Xiaoxian and Zhuo Xiaocheng. When Qin Feiyang said that they were comprehending the power of laws in the Black Tortoise realm and were personally taught by Elder Hua and the others, his face immediately bloomed with joy. Being taught by the 5 super giants was a good thing, so he temporarily suppressed the longing in his heart. Then, Zhuo Tiansheng sent a message to Lu Zhengyuan and Elder Yu. When they heard that Qin Feiyang and the Vice Alliance Master had reconciled, the two of them were overjoyed and immediately rushed to Cloud Sea City to meet with Qin Feiyang. As for the fire dragon, he strolled around the city lord's mansion and felt that it was too boring, so he returned to the Black Tortoise realm and continued comprehending the power of laws. At night, the full moon hung in the sky and the stars twinkled. Qin Feiyang, Zhuo Tiansheng, Lu Zhengyuan, and Elder Yu sat around a table, chatting and laughing happily. Qin Feiyang suddenly slapped his head and looked at Elder Yu who was sitting opposite him and said with a smile, I haven't congratulated Elder Yu for being promoted to the Vice City Lord of Windsea City. Elder Yu was stunned and waved his hand, what's there to congratulate? If it weren't for old Zhuo and old Lu's constant persuasion, this old man wouldn't want to be the Vice City Lord at all. There are too many trivial matters every day, I'm so busy that I'm about to die. This is called capable people do more work. Qin Feiyang chuckled. Only you have a sweet mouth. Elder Yu rolled his eyes at Qin Feiyang and said with a smile, speaking of which, we really should celebrate. We don't have to sneak around anymore, we can sit together and drink and chat openly. That's right. I've been waiting for this day for too long, it's finally here. Lu Zhengyuan nodded, the joy on his face was undisguised. Qin Feiyang smiled, there's another piece of news that will make you even happier. What news? The three of them looked at Qin Feiyang suspiciously. Qin Feiyang said, didn't I kill the 10th elder? Master said that he wants to pick one of the 2 uncles to inherit the 10th elder's position. It can't be. Zhuo Tiansheng and Lu Zhengyuan were shocked. Would I lie to you? Qin Feiyang smiled. No, we're not suspecting that you're lying to us, we just find it unbelievable. After all, we're just peak sovereigns, we're far from qualified. Lu Zhengyuan waved his hand. Master said that cultivation is secondary, ability is the most important. I've seen the abilities of the 2 uncles. They're definitely qualified. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. You only know how to say nice things. Lu Zhengyuan rolled his eyes at Qin Feiyang, then raised his wine cup and said with a smile, this is indeed good news, but it's also thanks to you. Come, let's toast to you. Qin Fei laughed involuntarily. The more he interacted with these three, the more he felt that his decision back then was very wise. Because if he had chosen to fall out with these three, he wouldn't have had the chance to see their true faces. Take Shui Tiansheng for example. Although he seemed selfish in the past, he found that he was actually quite a good person after they got to know each other. Chapter 3280. At the same time. Rogue Cultivators Alliance, Alliance Capital. The night was hazy. Two old men were also sitting in the courtyard, drinking and chatting. The two of them were the Deputy Alliance leader and the Hall of Famers. The Lord of the Hall of the Exalted took a sip from his wine glass. He looked at the Deputy Alliance Master and said, "I have to admit that your disciple is really something. He solved such a big problem in a few moves. He even turned the tables on the Blood Hall. Yes, I'm very proud to have such a disciple. But at the same time, I'm also very ashamed." The Deputy Alliance leader shook his head and sighed. Thinking back to the past, he deliberately schemed to kill Qin Feiyang. But now, not only did Qin Feiyang not hold it against him, but he even absolved him of all the charges. This attitude of repaying evil with good made him feel extremely ashamed. Enough. Even Qin Feiyang didn't hold it against you. What else can't you figure out? Humans will make mistakes. The most important thing is to know your mistakes and be able to correct them. After all, you're already so old. You can't end up losing your integrity in your old age, right? Besides, look at what the Blood Hall has done. They started targeting you at the first moment, and they even have 2 videos. You definitely didn't know about these 2 videos before, right? This means that they have no sincerity to cooperate with you at all. If this old man's guess is correct, after we kill Qin Feiyang and eliminate the Demon Royal Palace, they will definitely take out these 2 videos to completely ruin your reputation. In other words, no matter what the final outcome is, you won't get any benefits. Just like Qin Feiyang said, the Blood Hall is purely using you. The Hall of Famers shook his head. When the Deputy Alliance leader heard this, he just smiled faintly and appeared very calm. You're actually not angry? This isn't like you. The Hall of Famers looked at him in astonishment. If it was in the past, I would definitely be angry. But now, I've seen through it. There's no need for that. The vice leader shook his head and smiled. The Hall of Famers stared blankly at the Deputy Alliance leader. After a long while, he smiled and said, "It seems that this incident has really changed you a lot. However, old men like us should be more open-minded about everything. After all, things like fame and fortune are things that you won't bring with you when you're born, and you won't take it with you when you die. Why cling to it? Laugh all you want. In any case, you have something on me now." The Vice Alliance Master rolled his eyes at him, then smiled and said, "But what you said makes sense. People of our age don't need to think so much. It's the world of the young now, we just need to live a peaceful life." "Huh," the Hall of Famers laughed out loud. Holding his wine glass, he said, "If you had this kind of awareness, would I have hated you so much? But it's not too late now. Come on, let's have a drink." The Vice Alliance leader glared at him helplessly, then also picked up his wine glass and lightly clinked it with the Hall of Famers. The Hall of Famers took a sip, and his expression suddenly froze. He looked up at the Vice Alliance leader and said, "Old Yi, shouldn't you start planning for Yi Tian's future?" "What do you mean?" The Vice Alliance leader was taken aback. The Hall of Famers said, "In the eyes of ordinary people, your grandson is a genius, but compared to Qin Feiyang and Madman, to be honest, he's really nothing. Heard about it?" The Vice Alliance leader suddenly smiled bitterly and said, "Do you think there's anyone in the younger generation of our Sky Cloud realm who can compare with them? That's true. Even the elite disciples of the 4 super forces are far inferior compared to them." The Hall of Famers couldn't help but smile bitterly. So, there's no comparison at all. They're just two monsters. They can't be treated with ordinary eyes. The Vice Alliance leader shook his head. Then, aren't the two of us picking up a big bargain? The Hall of Famers asked. What do you think? The Vice Alliance leader was speechless. Wasn't he asking the obvious? The Hall of Famers chuckled and said, what I mean is that you should let Yi Tian follow them out. Although it's definitely very risky to follow them, there's a good saying that birds of a feather flock together. If Yi Tian follows them, he'll definitely have a good fortune in the future. The Vice Alliance leader was slightly taken aback. He looked at the Hall of Famers and said, this old man hasn't thought about this problem. You don't say, this is really a good way to cultivate Tian. Obviously. Besides, their relationship is good. The Hall of Famers smiled. Okay, I'll go find Tian tomorrow morning and talk to him. The Vice Alliance leader nodded and smiled. Late at night. The city lord's mansion. Zhuo Tiansheng and the other two knew that Qin Feiyang didn't like to drink, so they didn't persuade him. The three of them drank the whole night, and Qin Feiyang accompanied them on the side. This relaxed and harmonious atmosphere made Qin Feiyang feel very comfortable. Early the next morning. Qin Feiyang had just finished washing up when a guard came to find him. Greetings, Lord Qin. The guard stood in front of Qin Feiyang and bowed respectfully. Lord Qin, Qin Feiyang murmured. It seemed that his status in the eastern continent had quietly changed. What's the matter? Qin Feiyang asked with a smile. The guard was stunned. He didn't expect this person to be so kind. He immediately bowed and said, there's someone outside who wants to see you. Want to see you? Qin Feiyang was stunned and said suspiciously, is it someone from the Zhao family? If it is, tell them that I won't see them. He didn't have a good impression of the Zhao family at all. The guard said with a smile, the Zhao family did send someone here. When? Why didn't I know? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. It was last night. But the city lord has already said that he won't see anyone from the Zhao family, so we chased them away. The guard smiled. I see. It seems that you know me very well, uncle. Qin Feiyang smiled and asked, then who is the person who wants to see me this time? It's the two leaders of the Tianyue Tower. The guard said. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, so it's them. Let them in. Okay. The guard responded respectfully, then turned around and left quickly. Qin Feiyang glanced around. This was the backyard of the city lord's mansion. There was a lake in front of him with rippling blue waves. It was surrounded by green mountains and clear water. It was very quiet. That was the kind of place he liked. No one would disturb him. It was quiet. After taking a few breaths of fresh air, Qin Feiyang walked to the pavilion at the side, took out the tea set and tea leaves, and began to make tea. Soon, wisps of fragrance wafted out. A sip of tea in the morning made one feel refreshed. I can tell that this must be the best tea when I smell it from afar. Sister Meow Meow, we are in luck today. Just as Qin Feiyang picked up the teacup, put it to the tip of his nose and was about to taste it, a clear and pleasant voice came from the opposite side of the lake. Qin Feiyang looked up and saw two women walking side by side from the opposite side. One of them was wearing a white long dress. She was spotless, like a fairy from a painting, and exuded an aura of lightness. The other was wearing a colorful long dress. Her hair fluttered in the wind, like a colorful butterfly. She was extremely moving. That's right. The two of them were Yuqing and Yi Miao. Qin Feiyang put down the teacup and stood up to welcome them. He said with a smile, two fairies came to visit early in the morning. I should be the one to feast my eyes. The two women looked at each other and burst into laughter. Then, they walked into the courtyard and said, "We didn't disturb Qin Dage, did we?" "No." Qin Feiyang waved his hand, pointed at the stone bench, and said with a smile, "Have a seat." The two of them sat down one after another. Qin Feiyang pushed the prepared teacups in front of them. "Thank you." Yi Miao smiled. She picked up the teacup, smelled it, and took a sip. She nodded and said with a smile, "It is indeed good tea." Yuqing said with a smile, "Who doesn't know that Qin Dage is a tea lover? The tea he drinks is definitely not ordinary. It's not that exaggerated." Qin Feiyang waved his hand and asked, "Are the two ladies here for something?" Yuqing said unhappily, "Can't we come here to catch up with you?" "Catch up?" Qin Feiyang was taken aback. He quickly nodded with a smile and said, "Of course. That's right. After all, we are old friends. Besides, we have to thank you. If it weren't for your care, would our Tianyue Tower have developed to what it is today?" Yuqing smiled. "You're welcome." Qin Feiyang shook his head. "But Qin Dage, your and Madman Mo's identities are a little exaggerated now. On one hand, you are the Deputy Alliance leader and a disciple of the Hall of Famers. On the other hand, you are a core disciple of the Demon Hall. In the future, are you from the Rogue Cultivator Alliance or the Demon Hall?" Yi Miao looked at Qin Feiyang curiously. "Is there a difference?" "Whether it's the Rogue Cultivator Alliance or the Demon Hall, they are both part of the Tianyun realm." Qin Feiyang smiled. "Part of the Tianyun realm," Yi Miao was slightly taken aback. She shook her head and said with a smile, "I thought you would say part of the Eastern continent. It seems that Qin Dage has great ambitions." "I don't have any ambitions. I'm satisfied as long as I can take care of myself and the people around me." Qin Feiyang shook his head. "That's not bad. Look at this society. Who doesn't pursue fame and fortune wholeheartedly? The people around them are all chips to be sacrificed for their own interests. It's already admirable that Qin Dage can be so responsible." Yi Miao Miao smiled. "After hearing what you said, why do I feel that I'm very great?" Qin Feiyang was stunned. "You are great. Look at the Tianyun realm. There are countless people stronger than you, but who can shake the Blood Hall's position? But you can. And now, the relationship between the Rogue Cultivator Alliance and the Demon Hall is slowly changing because of you. You don't know how many people outside see you and Big Brother Mo as idols. Of course, you are also our idols." Yi Miao giggled, revealing a naughty smile. Qin Feiyang couldn't help but shake his head and laugh. "So these two femme fatales came early in the morning to compliment him? Qin Dage, this time, we came to find you because we do have something that we need your help with." Yuqing took a sip of tea, summoned her courage, and looked at Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang was slightly taken aback. A trace of playfulness flashed in his eyes. He asked suspiciously, "Didn't you just say that you came to find me to reminisce about old times?" "That's one thing." Yuqing smiled awkwardly. Chapter 3281. Qin Feiyang shook his head and laughed, saying, "Tell me, what's the matter? I'll try my best to help you." "I'm sure you can help." Yuqing smiled and said, "Now our Tianyue Tower is almost all over the Eastern continent, so Sister Miao Miao and I are going to develop in the other 3 continents." "So soon?" Qin Feiyang was surprised. "Soon?" Yuqing was stunned. "It's only been a few years, but you've already spread all over the Eastern continent. You two are quite capable." Qin Feiyang was amazed. Even with the help of Zhuo Tiansheng and the other two, it was not easy to develop so quickly. It seemed that he had underestimated these two women before. "No. We're just trying to make a living. We're still far from Qin Dage." Yuqing and Yi Miao quickly waved their hands. Don't be modest. Qin Feiyang smiled and asked, where are you going to develop next? I heard that you're going to the Western continent, so I was thinking, why don't we go there with you? We'll develop the Western continent first, then go to the Northern and Southern continents. Yuqing said. Go to the Western continent? Qin Feiyang was stunned and frowned. The Western continent is the territory of the Blood Hall. Your Tianyue Tower is quite famous now, so the Blood Hall must know you. Aren't you afraid that the Blood Hall will make trouble for you if you go to the Western continent? Of course they will make trouble for you. But we're just doing business. As long as it doesn't threaten the interests of the Blood Hall, it should be fine. Yuqing said. It's hard to say. Qin Feiyang shook his head. If the Blood Hall thought that the Tianyue Tower was a spy from the Eastern continent, they would definitely not allow it to establish itself in the Western continent. All in all, it was a very risky thing to do. However, this was Yuqing and Yi Miao's choice. If they insisted on going, he would not stop them. Yuqing pondered for a while and said with a smile, then let's go and take a look first. If it doesn't work out, we'll talk to the Blood Hall and see what their attitude is. If they can give us a foothold, we are willing to sacrifice some benefits. You don't have to tell me about this. You can decide for yourselves. After all, I am not very helpful to you all. At the very most, I will only be able to bring you all to the Western continent. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. That's enough. If Big Brother Yun were here, we wouldn't have bothered you because Big Brother Yun has grasped the laws of space and time. However, Miao Miao and I do not possess any space-time laws or space-time teleportation divine artifacts. Thus, we could only come to you for help. Yuqing smiled. Where is Yun Xiang now? It's been so many years, but there's still no news of him. Qin Feiyang was suspicious. We don't know either. We tried to contact him, but we couldn't. Yuqing shook her head. This person is really mysterious. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. He's the kind of person who goes with the flow and drifts around. He's not that mysterious. Yuqing smiled faintly, then asked, when will you depart for the Western continent? Qin Feiyang thought for a moment, then smiled and said, we'll see. It should be within the next 2 days. All right then. Let me know when you're leaving. I'll meet up with you. Yuqing said. You're going alone? Qin Feiyang was taken aback. Yes. After all, the Eastern continent needs someone to look after it. Therefore, Sister Miao Miao has to stay. Yuqing nodded. All right then. Qin Feiyang smiled. It's settled then. Yuqing immediately beamed and said, why don't you come to our Tianyue restaurant for a visit? We'll prepare some good wine and dishes as thanks. There's no need for that. I'm not that interested in eating and drinking. Qin Feiyang waved his hand. All right. Yuqing nodded and said with a smile, then we'll go back first. After all, we'll be leaving in the next 2 days. There's something I need to arrange. Go ahead. Qin Feiyang waved his hand. The two women put down their teacups and got up to leave. How ambitious. Looking at their backs, Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled. But suddenly, his eyes narrowed. How did Yuqing and Yi Miao know that he was going to the Western continent? One had to know. Only the big shots knew that he was going to the Western continent. Boom! At this moment, 2 auras descended above the city governor's mansion. Qin Feiyang raised his head to look and was slightly stunned. The people who had come were actually Yi Tian and Xingda. Xingda looked down at the city governor's mansion and soon saw Qin Feiyang. He immediately took a step forward and landed in front of Qin Feiyang with Yi Tian. Greetings, young master. Xingda immediately bowed to Qin Feiyang. Young master? Qin Feiyang was stunned. This is the Vice Alliance leader's order. He wants me to serve you and protect your safety in the Western continent. Xingde replied respectfully. Qin Feiyang was stunned. His master was willing to send Xingde to protect him? Xingde and his two brothers were his master's confidants. Especially Xingde, whose cultivation had reached the sovereign realm and was deeply trusted by his master. Letting Xingde accompany him to the Western continent to protect his safety was enough to show his position in his master's heart. Qin Feiyang asked, "Then do you know why I'm going to the Western continent?" "Yes." Xingde nodded. "Are you not afraid of death?" Qin Feiyang asked. Xingde replied, "I'll protect you even if I have to die." Qin Feiyang smiled. He looked at Yi Tian and asked, "Then Big Brother Yi, what about you? Don't tell me you're going to accompany me to the Western continent too?" "Me? I'm not that kind. I'm just being chased here by my grandfather." Yi Tian pouted. "Chased here?" Qin Feiyang was stunned. "Yes. He told me to follow you guys and use you guys as my helpers. He wants me to learn from you and Madman Mo. Right now, I feel like you two are his real grandsons. I'm just someone he picked up from the riverside." Yi Tian was displeased. Qin Feiyang shook his head and laughed. "Stop laughing. It's annoying." Yi Tian glared at Qin Feiyang. Xingde was also going to the Western continent, but he actually made Xingde and Qin Feiyang the leader. Wasn't this clearly biased? Qin Feiyang was speechless. Xingde suddenly asked, "By the way, young master, Lu Xingyuan should also be here, right?" "Yes. Last night, he specially rushed over from Wind Sea City to catch up with me." Qin Feiyang nodded. "I'm also looking for him and Zhuo Tiansheng." Xingde said. "Why are you looking for them?" Qin Feiyang was suspicious. Swish. Speak of the devil. Lu Xingyuan, Zhuo Tiansheng, and Elder Yu flew over like lightning and landed in front of the three. They bowed and said, "Greetings, Lord Xing and young Master Yi Tian." Xingde didn't conceal his aura. Hence, they immediately sensed it and rushed over. "You guys came at the right time. The vice leader wants me to ask you, which one of you is willing to go to the Alliance capital to take over the position of the 10th Elder?" Xingde looked at Zhuo Tiansheng and Lu Xingyuan and asked. "Is he really asking us to take over the position of the 10th Elder?" The two of them looked at each other. As for Elder Yu, his cultivation was still at the peak of the sovereign realm. He was indeed not qualified. Of course. He wouldn't fight for it. Xingde said, the vice leader also said to avoid harming the relationship. "You guys can decide for yourselves." "Decide for ourselves?" The two of them were astonished. How could it be so childish? However, when they saw Qin Feiyang beside them, they understood. This matter was definitely related to Qin Feiyang. Because they had a good relationship with Qin Feiyang, if they directly chose one of them, they would offend the other. Hence, it was better to let the two of them make their own choice. They didn't expect that there would be such a day. Because of Qin Feiyang, their value in the vice leader's eyes had greatly increased. Zhuo Tiansheng thought for a moment and smiled at Lu Xingyuan. "You go. You're about to break through to the peak sovereign realm. I've just broken through to the peak sovereign realm. You're more qualified than me. It's better for you to go. I'm alone and have no children. There's no need for me to waste this resource. You're different. You have a son and a daughter. If you enter the Alliance capital, it will be helpful for their future development and growth." Lu Xingyuan thought for a moment and said to Zhuo Tiansheng. "You're being modest?" Xingde was slightly stunned. This was the position of an elder. Once he became the 10th elder of the Rogue Cultivator Alliance, he would have a meteoric rise. It seemed like the relationship between the two of them wasn't shallow. No, no, no. I'm really not suitable. Zhuo Tiansheng hurriedly waved his hand and said, although you don't have children, you're Xian Er's adoptive father. You're no different from a biological daughter. Hence, when you enter the Alliance capital, they can still look for you. Furthermore, they're in the Black Tortoise world and don't lack resources. But, Lu Zhengyuan frowned. Enough. It's decided then. You go to the Alliance capital. Zhuo Tiansheng waved his hand. All right. Lu Zhengyuan nodded. Actually, Zhuo Tiansheng knew his own limitations. Whether it was cultivation or ability, he couldn't compare to Lu Zhengyuan. Back then, he was able to become the Vice City Lord of Wind Sea City because of Lu Zhengyuan's help. Hence, to him, Lu Zhengyuan had nurtured him. If he were to fight with Lu Zhengyuan now, wouldn't that be the same as being ungrateful? Since you've decided, Lu Zhengyuan, go and prepare. You'll report to the Alliance capital in 2 days. Also, the City Lord of Wind Sea City will be replaced by you, Elder Yu. Xingde looked at Elder Yu and said without a smile. Me? Elder Yu was stunned. He hurriedly waved his hand and said, no, no, with my little ability and strength, how can I manage such a big city? Lord Xing, you should choose someone else. This isn't my decision. It's the Vice City Lord's decision. No matter who goes to the Alliance capital, Lu Zhengyuan or Zhuo Tiansheng will take over their position. Xingde said. This, Elder Yu looked at Lu Zhengyuan and Zhuo Tiansheng for help. He was already annoyed to death by being the Vice City Lord. Now that he had to be the City Lord, he wouldn't be able to live a peaceful life in the future. Lu Zhengyuan smiled and said, the Vice City Lord wants you to take over our position. That's because he trusts you. What else do you want? Disobeying orders? That's a death sentence. That's right. If you want to die, you can refuse. We won't stop you. Zhuo Tiansheng also looked at him mockingly. You guys, Elder Yu looked at the two of them angrily. In the end, he helplessly lowered his head and looked at Xingde. I accept your orders. Have some confidence in yourself. Xingde encouraged. I have confidence, but I won't be able to live a leisurely life in the future. Elder Yu sighed. Hearing this, everyone couldn't help but laugh. After all this time, he just wanted to live a leisurely life. Chapter 3282. This was a happy ending for everyone. Zhuo Tiansheng and the other two were still considering whether to accept Chu Yun's invitation and turn to the Demon Palace. Now it seemed that there was no need for that. Next. Everyone chatted for a while, and Yi Tian took the initiative to go to the Black Tortoise world to cultivate. Because the Black Tortoise world's time array was double that of the Hall of the Exalted. Since he had already been rushed over, he naturally had to cherish this opportunity. Lu Zhengyuan and the other two also left one after another. After all, they all had important positions and couldn't accompany Qin Feiyang all the time. Xingde followed Qin Feiyang all the time, never leaving his side. Now, Qin Feiyang had nothing to worry about, so he naturally wouldn't reject it like before. In the pavilion, Qin Feiyang lowered his head, thinking about something while drinking tea. Xingde stood at the side, not saying a word the whole time, and his expression was extremely humble. Qin Feiyang inadvertently noticed Xingde's situation and asked suspiciously, "Why are you standing there? Sit down and drink tea." "No. There's a difference between master and servant." Xingde shook his head. "What difference between master and servant? You're a senior and master's confidant. It's my honor to be able to protect me personally. Moreover, I don't have a master and servant relationship with anyone. If you don't mind, we can get along as friends." Qin Feiyang smiled. "No." Xingde shook his head again. Qin Feiyang couldn't help but feel helpless. Why was he so stubborn? He got up and said, "Then let's go to the Demon Tower." "Yes." Xingde respectfully replied. Qin Feiyang rubbed his forehead, feeling powerless. But just as he took a step, he stopped and shook his head. "I'd better not go out now to avoid causing a commotion." "I think so too. Now you're a celebrity in the Eastern continent. Once you walk out of the city lord's mansion, you'll definitely become the center of attention." Xingde nodded. Qin Feiyang pondered for a moment before looking at Xingdao. "How about this, you make a trip to the Devil Tower on my behalf, see if there are any 7th, 8th, or 9th order High God Realm pill fires. If there are, help me buy 3 clusters of each. Also, if there are any 10th order High God Realm pill furnaces, help me buy 1 as well." "Yes." Boss Xing bowed and replied. "Aren't you just asking me why I need so much alchemy fire?" Qin Feiyang looked at him in confusion. "This is the principle of being a subordinate. Just listen to orders and don't ask for reasons." Xingdao. Qin Feiyang smiled bitterly. He hadn't noticed this before, but after interacting with him like this, he felt that this person was really boring. He then said, "Also, buy some teleportation altars." "All right." Boss Xing nodded, then turned around and left. "Wait, I'm not done yet." Qin Feiyang hurriedly stopped Xingde. De Xing turned around and looked at him suspiciously. Qin Feiyang pondered for a while. His eyes flashed as he said, "Help me monitor another person." "Monitor someone?" Boss Xing was stunned for a moment. "Yes. This person is called Yuqing. She's the owner of Tianyue Tower. She'll be going to the Western mainland with me in 2 days. However, I want to know her whereabouts, including who she's in contact with." Qin Feiyang said. "No problem." Boss Xing nodded and asked, "Do you have any other instructions?" "Nope." Qin Feiyang shook his head. At this moment, Boss Xing turned around and left. After watching Boss Xing leave, Qin Feiyang retracted his gaze, took a sip of tea, and muttered, "I hope you don't have any problems." He was very concerned about this suspicious point. Only the big shots knew that he was going to the Western mainland, so it couldn't have been spread. Then, where did Yuqing get the news from? Although Tianyue Tower had developed, to be honest, their network was far from enough to find out about this. As for speculation, that was even more impossible. Because even if everyone knew that the Mermaid Emperor and White-Winged Emperor were still in the hands of the Blood Hall, as long as he didn't express his stance, no one would know if he would go to the Blood Hall to rescue them. Besides, Yuqing's words didn't have any traces of speculation. Yuqing was already sure that he was going to the Western mainland. This didn't make sense. In the blink of an eye, 2 days passed. In these 2 days, Qin Feiyang had been staying in the city lord mansion. He didn't go anywhere and didn't do anything. He was completely in a relaxed state. Because he was going to the Western mainland soon, and once he stepped into the Western mainland, he would definitely be in danger. Therefore, he had to adjust his state. In the morning, Qin Feiyang got up, washed up, and walked out of the courtyard. Looking at the calm lake, there was a cold light in his eyes. No matter what, he had to rescue the Mermaid Emperor and White-Winged Emperor this time. Whoosh! At this moment, Boss Xing returned and landed in front of Qin Feiyang. "How was it?" Qin Feiyang asked. In the past 2 days, whether it was Yuqing or Yi Miao, they were all very normal. Moreover, the people they came into contact with were basically the tower masters of the various branches, Boss Xing reported truthfully. "So, I'm thinking too much?" Qin Feiyang frowned and asked, "Then did they send a message to anyone?" "They definitely sent a message. But they were all unimportant people. In short, I didn't find anything suspicious." Boss Xing, "All right. I hope I'm overthinking. After Qin Feiyang said that, he smiled and said, what about the pill fire and pill furnace? You asked for too many, and the demon tower won't be able to produce them in a short period of time. As for the 10th level divine rank pill furnace, this level is already the best. The demon tower doesn't have it at the moment. However, the tower master of the demon tower in Cloud Sea City said that he will report this matter to Chu Yun and ask for it directly from her. Boss Xing Qin Feiyang nodded and asked, you have teleportation altars, right? Of course. Boss Xing nodded, took out a universe ring, and handed it to Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang took the universe ring and checked it. It was filled with palm-sized teleportation altars. There were at least 1 million of them, enough for him to use for a long time. Then let's go. Qin Feiyang smiled. Now? Aren't you going to say goodbye to the alliance? Boss Xing was stunned. There's no need. Since Master asked you and Brother Yi to come to Cloud Sea City to look for me, he must have expected that I wouldn't go back. So, there's no need to go back and add to the sorrow of parting. Qin Feiyang smiled, took out the divine message stone, and sent a message to Yuqing. After receiving the message, Yuqing immediately rushed to the city lord's estate. Then, Qin Feiyang opened the gate of time and space and brought Yuqing and Boss Xing to the sky above Sky Cloud Island. Is this the Western continent? Yuqing looked around suspiciously. Of course not. Qin Feiyang smiled, looked down at the island, and soon found the little rabbit. At a certain place halfway up the mountain, the little rabbit was lying on a rock, holding a jug of wine. She squinted her eyes and basked in the sun while drinking the divine wine. She was as relaxed as she could be. It's him. Boss Xing's pupils shrank when he saw the little rabbit. You know him too? Qin Feiyang transmitted his voice. In the various forces of the sky cloud realm, as long as one has some knowledge, who doesn't know about its existence? Boss Xing thought. Then what role does he play in the sky cloud realm? Is he really the legendary beast god? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. I don't know. Not only me, but the leaders of the various forces also don't know whether he is the beast god or not. Because no one has ever seen the true face of the beast god. Boss Xing transmitted his voice. So mysterious? Qin Feiyang's eyes suddenly flashed with a strange light. However, we speculate that even if this little rabbit isn't the beast god, it is definitely related to the beast god. Moreover, its strength is unfathomable. Therefore, in our sky cloud realm, even the big shots of the 4 super forces are extremely courteous to it. Boss Xing thought. I can see that. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. What a cute little rabbit. Suddenly, Yuqing exclaimed in joy and flew towards the little rabbit. Don't, Qin Feiyang hurriedly stopped her, but it was too late. Yuqing had already rushed to the little rabbit and hugged it, looking at it fondly. Qin Feiyang and Boss Xing looked at each other. This was really like the old saying, those who don't know are fearless. If Yuqing knew about the little rabbit's strength and identity, she would definitely be frightened. Little rabbit, why are you so cute? Come with me, okay? I will protect you in the future. The more Yuqing looked, the more she liked it. Qin Feiyang hurriedly flew over and was about to explain to the little rabbit. The little rabbit also looked at Yuqing strangely. Where did this silly woman come from? She actually dared to touch it? It suddenly said, if I go with you, do you have wine? Wine? Yuqing was slightly stunned. Only then did she notice the wine jar the little rabbit was holding. She said unhappily, why would a little rabbit like you drink wine? Drinking too much is not good for your body. If you don't have wine, then shut up. A terrifying aura suddenly roared out from the little rabbit's body. Yuqing was immediately sent flying, a trace of blood flowed out from the corner of her mouth. What? She was stunned on the spot. This aura had actually reached the perfection stage sovereign realm. Big brother, please have mercy. Qin Feiyang hurriedly pleaded for leniency. Big brother? Boss Xing couldn't help but be stunned. Yueqing also looked at Qin Feiyang and the little rabbit in a daze. This little rabbit was actually Qin Feiyang's big brother? The little rabbit glanced at Yueqing and asked, "You brought this silly woman here?" "Yes. She wants to go to the Western continent with me. It's on the way, so I came to see you and give you some black tortoise divine wine." Qin Feiyang smiled. Hearing the black tortoise divine wine, the little rabbit's eyes lit up. It said, "All right, for your sake, I won't bicker with her. But in the future, don't just bring anyone to Sky Cloud Island." I know. Qin Feiyang nodded repeatedly. With a wave of his hand, 50 jars of black tortoise divine wine appeared. So much? The little rabbit was stunned for a moment. Then, it pounced on the jars and rolled around like a happy little kid. Looking at this scene, Xing Da's entire body froze. Although he rarely saw this little rabbit, it was the first time he saw it so happy. He couldn't help but wonder if this was really the little rabbit he was familiar with. Isn't it because Big Brother likes it? That's why Little Brother sent more people to brew it for you day and night. Qin Feiyang chuckled. Not bad, Uncle Rabbit didn't misjudge. You're a good little brother. The little rabbit chuckled happily, her face about to blossom. Then Big Brother, can you accompany me to the Western continent? Look, I don't know where the Western continent is. I also don't know how far it is. With my speed, I don't know how long it will take. Qin Feiyang smiled. The little rabbit was slightly stunned when it heard this. Then, it looked at Qin Feiyang with disdain and said, "Uncle Rabbit knew you were up to no good. Accompanying you to the Western continent, isn't it obvious that you want Uncle Rabbit to be your personal bodyguard? Kid, you're quite calculative. You want Uncle Rabbit to be your free fighter for just a few jars of wine." Qin Feiyang laughed dryly. That was indeed his intention. He wanted to trick the little rabbit into going to the Western continent first and then find a way to keep it by his side. This way, when the little rabbit came personally, wouldn't the blood hull obediently release it immediately? Unfortunately, this little thought in his heart was directly seen through by this little rabbit. Accompanying you to the Western continent is impossible. You have to rely on yourself for this kind of thing. Moreover, Uncle Rabbit and the 4 major forces have long made a pact. We can't interfere with the matters of the 4 continents. The little rabbit rolled its eyes at Qin Feiyang. Then, it waved its little paw and a space-time passage appeared. It said, "The other end of the passage is a small town at the edge of the Western continent. It's very safe. Don't worry about it." "All right." Qin Feiyang nodded. There was a trace of helplessness in his expression. He turned to look at Xing Da and Yueqing and said, "Let's go." Then, the 3 of them stepped into the space-time passage one after another. "Brat, you still want to trick Uncle Rabbit, hee, you'll be in for a treat later." Looking at Qin Feiyang and the other 2 who disappeared into the space-time passage, the little rabbit's lips curled into a smirk. Chapter 3283. The Western Continent. There was a vast mountain range at the center of the continent. The mountain range was extremely huge, and it practically occupied a tenth of the entire continent. There were countless strange peaks, towering ancient trees, and formidable ferocious beasts that could be seen everywhere. Amongst them, 9 mountain ranges were the most unique. These 9 mountain ranges were around 30 kilometers tall, and they were like 9 enormous dragon veins that lay across the mountain range. This place was named after these 9 mountain ranges, and it was called the 9-Dragon Mountain Range. It was a restricted area of the Western continent. A restricted area was naturally a place where ordinary people couldn't step foot into. On the Western continent, only the Blood Hall could possess such a deterrent force. In other words, the Nine-Dragon Mountain Range was the Blood Hall's lair. Figures frequently appeared within the mountain range, and they were practically all disciples of the Blood Hall. They were either travel-worn or tempering themselves within the mountain range. Even though the mountain range was extremely huge, it seemed extremely bustling. I've been really unlucky recently. I've been waiting in the exchange pavilion for so long, yet I haven't even encountered a decent treasure. How can I encounter one every single day? It depends on my luck. Looks like my luck hasn't been very good recently. However, even though I haven't encountered any treasures, I heard quite a bit of news. What news? Besides that fellow, Qin Feiyang, what else could there be? It's Qin Feiyang again? Exactly. Even though he's on the eastern continent, everyone on the western continent knows about him. Go take a look at the various restaurants. They're all talking about him. I heard that Elder Hai suffered a huge loss in the eastern continent. It was two young men who were talking. Both of them were around the age of 20, and their cultivations were at the undead realm. One of them was a robust young man with a scar on his face, and he seemed quite ferocious. The other person was rather thin, wore green clothes, and had a shrewd glow in his eyes. Both of them flew towards the depths of the mountain range as they discussed in low voices. What? He suffered a huge loss again? The scarred man gazed at the green-clothed man with shock. Yes. The green-clothed man nodded, and then he glanced at the surroundings and spoke softly. I heard that he was captured by Qin Feiyang, the Independent Cultivator Alliance, and the Devil Hall in Ocean of Cloud City, and he was forced to detonate his body. It can't be. Elder Hai actually detonated his body. The scarred man was shocked. This was the first time he had heard of it. Are you kidding? Qin Feiyang alone is enough to kill old Hai. After all, he has a Dominator Divine weapon. He even has a slaughter domain that is comparable to a Dominator Divine weapon. Not to mention, he has joined forces with the Rogue Cultivator Alliance and the Devil Palace. If old Hai doesn't self-destruct, he will definitely fall into their hands. The azure-robed man said in a low voice. Then wouldn't our Blood Hall lose another big shot? The Great Deacon has just died, and old Hai has also fallen. This is a fatal blow to our Blood Hall. The scarred man whispered. It was hard to believe that old C would explode his own body. You think too much. If old Hai had really fallen, why didn't the higher-ups make any moves? If I'm not mistaken, old Hai must have left his divine soul in the Blood Hall when he went to the eastern continent. That's why he chose to self-detonate without hesitation. But with old Hai's current reputation, that is, Sai, it's fine if you don't say it. If you do, even I, a disciple of the Blood Hall, will feel ashamed. The azure-robed man shook his head and sighed. How could old Hai, the Deputy Hall Master of the Blood Hall and a big shot in the Sky Cloud realm, do such a shameful thing? Even if he wasn't afraid of losing face, he had to think about the Blood Hall. Don't. You're only saying half of it. Aren't you deliberately keeping me in suspense? The scarred man looked at the azure-robed man with dissatisfaction when he heard this. The azure-robed man pondered for a moment and transmitted his voice, then I'll tell you. Don't run around and talk nonsense. If old Hai knows about this, we'll all be finished. Don't worry. I'm a tight-lipped person. The scarred man grinned. I heard. The azure-robed man looked around again and then told the azure-robed man in detail what he had heard. Although it was just hearsay, it wasn't far from the truth. No way. Is old Hai stupid? Why would he do such a thing? Isn't this deliberately ruining the reputation of our Blood Hall? Let alone you, even I feel ashamed now. In the future, when we go out and face the people of the Demon Palace, sacred palace, and divine palace, will be inferior to them. The scarred man shook his head. Smart all your life, but stupid this time. If you really hated Qin Feiyang, you could have killed him openly. Even if you were defeated by him in the end, others would at least say that you were a courageous person. But you used such a shameful method and failed. You were forced to self-destruct. This was simply a huge joke. So now, the people of the Western continent no longer take pride in entering the blood hall. This time, I've really embarrassed myself all the way to my grandmother's house. The azure-robed man shook his head. It wasn't just the disciples of the blood hall. Even some elders were discussing this in private. Say, how could old Hyde do such a thing? How will our blood hall face the people of the major forces in the future? What old Hyde did this time not only angered the people of the Eastern continent, but even the people of the Western continent snorted in disdain. This was simply a disgrace to the Western continent. Boom! Suddenly, a loud sound came from above the scarred man and the young man. The two of them were shocked. They hurriedly looked up and saw the void above them twisting crazily. A space-time crack slowly appeared. This is the space-time law. It seems like old Hai is the only person in the blood hall who has mastered the space-time law. But didn't old Hai self-destruct his body? Even if he left his soul in the blood hall, it's impossible for him to reconstruct his soul and divine body so quickly. Who could it be? The two of them looked at the space-time crack in surprise. Not only the two of them, but all the disciples nearby also stopped and looked up at the space-time crack. The Nine-Dragon Mountain Range was a forbidden area in the Western continent. Other than the disciples of the Blood Hall, no matter who it was, they had to go through a notice and obtain permission from the higher-ups before they could enter the Nine-Dragon Mountain Range. Therefore, even if there were other people in the Western continent who had mastered the space-time law, they wouldn't dare to descend from the sky so brazenly. Therefore, they concluded that the person was definitely not from the Western continent. If it wasn't from the Western continent, it had to be someone from the Demon Hall, Temple of Gods, and Sky Hall. Moreover, it had to be one of the leaders of the three major forces. This was because only the leaders of the three major forces had the guts to descend directly above the Nine-Dragon Mountain Range. Under everyone's gazes, three figures finally strode out of the space-time crack. The leader was a young man in white. He had a slender figure and a jade-like face. There was a faint smile between his brows. Behind him was a middle-aged man in a long black robe. His aura was unfathomable. He was serious in speech and manner, and his face was cold. He gave off a cold feeling that kept people at arm's length. The last one was a woman in a long white dress. Her facial features were beautiful, and her figure was petite and tall. Her black hair was like a waterfall, and she exuded a stunning beauty. Why does this young man in white look so familiar? The man in green below frowned. He wasn't the only one. The burly man with a scar and the others beside him were also looking at the young man in white with a puzzled expression. It's him. Qin Feiyang. Suddenly. No one knew who cried out in surprise, but it instantly caused an uproar. That's right, that's right. I've seen his portrait. He's Qin Feiyang. He actually came directly to our blood hall? Is this a blatant provocation? Anger immediately surged in everyone's eyes. They had long heard that this person was very arrogant and even challenged all the core disciples of their blood hall during the exchange meet. However, they didn't expect him to be so arrogant that he came to their blood hall so brazenly. This is the Western mainland? Looking at Qin Feiyang and the other two again. Qin Feiyang and Yuqing looked around curiously and didn't notice the people below. However, Boss Xing had already noticed, and his eyes were full of surprise. What was going on? Didn't Little Rabbit say that the other end of the transmission channel was a small town at the edge of the Western mainland? But why did this seem to be the Blood Hall's lair, the 9-Dragon Mountain Range. What's going on? Where's the promised small town? Finally, Qin Feiyang and Yuan also noticed the situation below. The mountain range stretched as far as the eye could see. They didn't see any towns, but on a few mountain peaks in the depths, many ancient halls could be seen. Each hall exuded an ancient aura, like ancient fierce beasts lurking on the mountain peaks. Moreover, on top of the 9 dragon-like mountain ridges, they also saw caves. Almost every cave had a powerful aura. This isn't a small town. Boss Xing glanced around, and finally locked his eyes on those ancient halls, and said in a deep voice, "Not a small town?" The two were slightly stunned and asked suspiciously, "Then where is this?" "This is the 9 Dragons Mountain Range, the lair of the Blood Hall." Boss Xing said word by word, and his tone was extremely solemn. "What? The lair of the Blood Hall?" The two's expressions immediately froze. They didn't know what the 9 Dragons Mountain Range was. However, as long as one wasn't an idiot, one could understand that this was the headquarters of the Blood Hall. In other words, Little Rabbit sent them to the lair of the Blood Hall? Qin Feiyang, you actually came to the 9 Dragons Mountain Range. Are you bullying the Blood Hall? Suddenly, a roar was heard. 9 figures rushed out from the ancient halls in the distance, and with monstrous anger, they rushed toward Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang and the other two raised their heads to look. There were men and women, old and young, but without exception, the aura they emitted had reached the level of perfection, sovereign realm. Not good. They are the 9 great deacons of the Blood Hall. Their status in the Blood Hall is the same as the 10 great elders of the Rogue Cultivator Alliance. They are all overlords whose names shake the sky cloud realm. Boss Xing's pupils contracted. Damn! The corner of Qin Feiyang's mouth twitched, and he quickly looked at the 9 great deacons with murderous aura, and asked, "If I say this is a misunderstanding, would you believe me?" When Boss Xing and Yuqing heard this, they couldn't help but roll their eyes. They had already come to the lair of the Blood Hall, and he said it was a misunderstanding? Only ghosts would believe it. Chapter 3284. The Blood Hall disciples below were also speechless. Misunderstanding? If they went to the Demonic Hall or the Rogue Cultivator Alliance and were found out, would you believe it? The 9 deacons were also stunned at first, but then they became even angrier. Did they think they were fools? They had already come to the 9 Dragons Mountain Range, and they still said it was a misunderstanding? The 9 of them were full of murderous aura. Qin Feiyang saw that the situation was not good and roared, "Damn Little Rabbit, I'll settle the score with you later." Xingde, retreat. Xingde had been waiting for Qin Feiyang to say that. With a wave of his hand, he swept up Qin Feiyang and Yuqing, and then he used the supreme level support technique and turned around to leave the 9 Dragons Mountain Range. What a joke. This was the Blood Hall's nest. No matter how bold he was, he did not dare to stay here. He ran away. Didn't he come to find trouble? Could it be a misunderstanding? He was cursing some little rabbit just now. Could it be that he was tricked by some unreliable guy? The Blood Hall disciples below looked quite stunned. If Qin Feiyang heard this, he would definitely give these people a thumbs up and say that they were wise. He had been tricked by the little rabbit. They had agreed to go to a small town at the edge, but he had been brought to the Blood Hall's nest directly? Was he trying to kill him? He had never seen such a trap. Qin Feiyang? At the same time, there was a courtyard on a deeper mountain peak. A blood-haired old man suddenly walked out and stared at the void in front of him, his eyes full of doubts. This person was the Blood Hall Master. He had expected Qin Feiyang to come to the Western continent, but he did not expect that Qin Feiyang would dare to come to the 9 Dragons Mountain Range directly. He thought he had heard wrong. As soon as he came out, he released his divine thought and found that it was really Qin Feiyang. "Little bastard, you're courting death." Immediately, he roared angrily and cut through the sky like a bolt of lightning. Clang! At the same time, the Ice Dragon's sacred sword and the horsetail whisk, the two sovereign divine weapons, appeared with mighty power and rushed toward Qin Feiyang and the other two. Not good. Xingde also sensed the aura of the Blood Hall Master and the two Dominator divine weapons. His expression changed drastically. As for Yuqing, her face was as white as a sheet of paper. Who would have thought that they would encounter such a situation as soon as they entered the Western continent? Now, if she were to say that she had nothing to do with Qin Feiyang and was purely here to do business, would the people of the Blood Hall believe her? Definitely not. Now, in the eyes of the Blood Hall, she was Qin Feiyang's accomplice. This little rabbit really caused people to die. Qin Feiyang rubbed his forehead. He was also having a headache. It would have been better if he had known in advance. At least he would have been mentally prepared. But now, he was completely caught off guard. He had no idea what to do. Calm down, Qin Feiyang took a deep breath and turned around to look at the 9 deacons. As for the Blood Hall Master and the two sovereign divine weapons, they hadn't caught up yet and couldn't see them. Suddenly, Qin Feiyang's eyes lit up. He already had an idea. Since this was the headquarters of the Blood Hall, the people of the Blood Hall would definitely have concerns. Because if they really started a war here, Qin Feiyang wouldn't suffer any losses. On the contrary, the Blood Hall would suffer the greatest loss. Therefore, since they were going to start a war, the Blood Hall would definitely wait for them to leave the 9 Dragon Mountain range. This way, the Blood Hall wouldn't be affected. Thinking of this, Qin Feiyang looked at Xingde and asked, "Are you familiar with the Western continent?" "Not very. I've only been here a few times." Xingde answered truthfully. "Don't say a few times. Just once is enough." Qin Feiyang smiled. Because as long as he had been to the Western continent, he would definitely know the coordinates of other places. Although the ancestors weren't with him now and the space-time gate had been used, he still had Yi Tian and Snowflake with him. Snowflake, a heaven-defying divine weapon, had the space-time law. Yi Tian had mastered the space-time law. Therefore, as long as he had the coordinates, he could easily escape. He made a prompt decision. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and Snowflake appeared. Yi Tian must be cultivating, so it was better not to disturb him. "Give it a coordinate," Qin Feiyang said. Xingde thought for a while and said, "Then go to the Mad Bull Mountain." After saying that, he told Snowflake the coordinates. Snowflake heard it and immediately opened a space-time transmission channel. "Want to leave?" "Not so easy." The 9 deacons crazily attacked. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, "Xingde, show me your power of law." "Fight?" Xingde was stunned. "Can you beat them?" Qin Feiyang was speechless and then said, "I asked you to bombard the 9 Dragon Mountain range. When the time comes, they will protect the 9 Dragon Mountain range and the Blood Hall disciples below. They won't be able to stop us." "I see." Xingde smiled awkwardly. Boom! In an instant, 6 profound supernatural abilities appeared. Qin Feiyang looked at it. "Wow, this is incredible. The laws of sword, the laws of war, the laws of earth, the laws of fire, the laws of metal, the laws of water, all of them were the 5th profound. This lethality was extraordinary. If they really bombarded the mountain range below, half of the 9 Dragon Mountain range would be razed to the ground in an instant. Kill. Take it as a meeting gift for them." Qin Feiyang grinned. Xingde nodded. The 6 profound supernatural abilities immediately shattered the sky and blasted in all directions. They definitely couldn't attack in one direction. Because in this way, any of the 9 deacons could stop them. After all, their strength was not inferior to Xingde. But if they were to split up, the 9 deacons would naturally have to split up to stop them. However, one of the deacons sneered and said, "Want to use this method to restrain us? Simply wishful thinking." As his voice fell, 6 of the deacons immediately spread out and rushed toward the 6 profound supernatural abilities. The other 3 ignored them and went straight to Qin Feiyang and the other 2. "Hey!" Qin Feiyang was not surprised, as if he had already expected it. Boom! The slaughter domain instantly opened. A blood-red long sword appeared and slashed out. Slaughter domain. The 3 of them turned pale. Ordinary people might not know the power of the slaughter domain, but as the overlords of the Blood Hall, the 3 deacons were quite clear about it. As soon as they saw Qin Feiyang open the slaughter domain, a sense of fear emerged in their hearts. They did not pay attention to the current situation of the slaughter domain and instinctively retreated. "What are you afraid of? It hasn't overlapped yet." Qin Feiyang sneered. The blood-red long sword left his hand and then stepped into the space-time crack without looking back. Xingde, Yueqing, and Shui followed closely behind. "It hasn't overlapped?" The 3 deacons were stunned and quickly looked at the blood-red long sword. Its power was indeed ordinary. At that moment, they felt ashamed of their previous cowardly behavior. Bastard! However, when they came to their senses, it was too late to kill them. The space-time crack was already healing. Because the space-time crack would only heal after the transmission was successful. The feeling of being played made them extremely angry. Boom! At this moment, the Blood Hall Master and the 2 sovereign divine weapons also charged over. "Where is he?" The Blood Hall Master frowned. "Lord, please forgive us." The 3 deacons hurriedly knelt in the void. The other 6 deacons, after blocking the 6 profound supernatural powers, also hurriedly flew over and knelt in front of the Blood Hall Master. Useless trash. The Ice Dragon Sacred Sword was furious. The 9 of them did not dare to say a word. Their faces were full of fear. Facing the Blood Hall Master, they were scared to death, let alone this sovereign divine weapon. Even if the Ice Dragon Sacred Sword killed them now, the Blood Hall Master would not say a word. The Blood Hall Master glanced at the Ice Dragon Sacred Sword, looked at the 9 of them and asked, "Other than Qin Feiyang, who else is there?" "And the confidant of the vice leader, Xingde, there is also a woman. But we have never seen this woman before. Her cultivation is also very ordinary." One of the deacons said. "What does she look like?" The Blood Hall Master frowned. The deacon waved his hand, and Yueqing's shadow immediately condensed. This person, the Blood Hall Master, looked at Yueqing in a daze. "Lord Hall Master knows her." The 9 deacons looked at him suspiciously. "All of you, get up first. Actually, I can't blame you for this. After all, this is the 9 Dragons Mountain Range. You don't dare to use your full strength." The Blood Hall Master waved his hand. "Thank you for your kindness, Lord." The 9 of them bowed gratefully and then got up. The Blood Hall Master continued to look at Yueqing's shadow. His eyes flickered, and he said, "I have heard about this woman from the Dark Guard commander." "Then who is she?" The 9 of them frowned. "I heard from the Dark Guard commander that a restaurant called Tianyue Tower has appeared in the Eastern continent in recent years. This restaurant has developed very quickly. In less than 1,000 years, Tianyue Tower has spread to every city in the Eastern continent. The most important thing is that the tower masters of Tianyue Tower are 2 women. This woman is one of them. In the past, I was still very puzzled. How could 2 mere little girls have such great abilities? So it turns out that they have Qin Feiyang as their backing." The Blood Hall Master smiled coldly. In that case, Tianyue Tower is a force under Qin Feiyang's control? Is he creating his own force? The 9 deacons were surprised. I don't know. But this has nothing to do with us. What we need to do is to kill him at all costs. If there is a chance, as long as it doesn't affect our blood hall, we will do it at all costs. The blood hall master's eyes were filled with killing intent. The 9 deacons were shocked. At all costs. In other words, they had to get rid of this person even if they had to sacrifice the interests and lives of the Western continent. The blood hall master said in a deep voice, "Immediately arrange for a thorough search of every city in the Western continent. We must find them at all costs." Yes. The 9 of them nodded respectfully. In addition, one of you will go to the Eastern continent now and ask the Dark Guard commander to come back first. Also, bring back the other tower master of Tianyue Tower. The blood hall master said again. Then I will go. One of the deacons said. Go and come back quickly. The blood hall master instructed. The deacon nodded, but he suddenly thought of something and asked, "My lord, I heard from Elder Hai that Madman Mo is in love with Zhuo Xiaoxian, Zhuo Tiansheng's daughter. Zhuo Tiansheng should be a good bargaining chip, right?" Zhuo Tiansheng. The blood hall master pondered in silence. It is said that Zhuo Tiansheng is from the Independent Cultivator Alliance, and he seems to be the city governor of Ocean of Cloud City. There is also someone called Lu Zhengyuan. According to the investigation, he is Zhuo Xiaoxian's adoptive father, and he should be on good terms with Qin Feiyang. The deacon continued. Chapter 3285. Lu Zhengyuan, Zhuo Tiansheng, the blood hall master murmured. Finally, he looked at the deacon and said, "In that case, go and tell the Dark Guard commander to see if he has a chance to bring these 2 back." Yes. The deacon nodded and then turned to leave. The other 8 deacons immediately took action. Mad Bull Mountain. This was a huge peak that was shaped like a bull. It looked like it was baring its fangs and brandishing its claws. It really did look like a mad bull. The peak of the mountain. Qin Feiyang, Shuang, and Snowflake rushed out of the spacetime crack. Glancing around, they didn't see anyone from the blood hall. Only a few beasts were wandering in the mountain. Qin Feiyang and Yueqing couldn't help but let out a long breath. Don't worry. I'm not as bad as Little Rabbit. This Mad Bull Mountain is really at the edge of the Western continent. Xingda looked at the 2 and said. Don't mention that bastard. Qin Feiyang's face was full of anger. If he didn't have some means to protect himself, he was afraid that he would have died in the 9-Dragon Mountain range. Yueqing said helplessly, "Qin Dage, didn't you call it Big Brother? Why did it cheat you?" Big Brother? Qin Feiyang smiled bitterly and didn't talk about Little Rabbit anymore. He looked up at Snowflake, and there was a trace of surprise in his eyes. The aura that this guy was exuding had reached the level of a legendary divine artifact. Was it an illusion? What are you looking at? Don't you know? Snowflake's weapon spirit said unhappily. No. You have evolved into a legendary divine artifact? Qin Feiyang asked. Yes. It's not just me. The other divine artifacts have evolved into the legendary divine artifact. Snowflake said proudly. That's fast. Qin Feiyang smiled slightly. Is it? I don't know how many billions of years have passed in the Black Tortoise world. Snowflake said and urged, is there anything else? If not, quickly send me to the Black Tortoise world. A legendary divine artifact could no longer satisfy it. Not only it, but all the divine artifacts in the Black Tortoise world were aiming for the sovereign divine weapon. Of course. This was also a scene that Qin Feiyang was very happy to see. At that time, these heaven-defying divine weapons would really evolve into sovereign divine weapons. Then, who in the sky cloud realm would be his match? Blood Hall? Temple? Sky Hall? They could only tremble at his feet. Qin Feiyang was just about to send Snowflake in when his eyes suddenly flashed. He looked at Snowflake and smiled. Shouldn't you be thanking me for your achievements today? What are you trying to say? The Snowflake artifact spirit was taken aback, and there was a trace of vigilance in its tone. Look, what can you get by following the fiend ancestor? You won't get anything. But if you follow me, it'll be different. Not to mention anything else, it'll definitely not be a problem for you to evolve into a heaven-defying supreme artifact. We'll talk about it later. Even if the demon ancestor wants to stay in the Black Tortoise realm, it will depend on my mood, let alone you. If there comes a day when I'm not happy, I'll chase you all out of the Black Tortoise realm. Qin Feiyang chuckled and said. He was like a treacherous old fox. Don't be so despicable, okay? Didn't you see the changes in the demon ancestor? He's a completely different person compared to before. In short, don't be too wicked. The artifact spirit despised. I'm wicked? Qin Feiyang's face darkened. If he was wicked, would he let these guys stay in the Black Tortoise realm? Speaking of this lord suddenly remembered something. The artifact spirit said. What is it? Qin Feiyang looked at it suspiciously. The heaven-defying divine weapon sealed in the soul-sealing valley, have you forgotten about it? The artifact spirit asked. Qin Feiyang was stunned. Soul-sealing valley? Heaven-defying divine weapon? Then, he patted his head and smiled bitterly. If you didn't remind me now, I would have really forgotten about it. The heaven-defying divine weapon in the soul-sealing valley had been plotting against him many times, so he didn't care about it. As time passed, he slowly forgot about it. In the past, because you couldn't subdue it and were afraid that it would mess around in the Black Tortoise realm, you didn't help it to break the seal. But now, it's different. With your current strength, you can easily subdue it. So, instead of sealing it, it's better to release it early. Who knows, it might be of great help in the future. Besides, Bloodshed and I are old friends with it. Now that we're in the Black Tortoise realm, I believe it won't mess around. Snowflake's artifact spirit said. That makes sense. Qin Feiyang nodded. Back then, he didn't dare to let this heaven-defying divine weapon out. After all, he wasn't strong enough and the Black Tortoise realm was very fragile. But now, the Black Tortoise realm's strength was comparable to a sovereign divine weapon. A mere heaven-defying divine weapon couldn't do anything. As for the old friends that Snowflake mentioned, he knew about it. Because the heaven-defying divine weapon in the soul-sealing valley told him about its relationship with Snowflake and Bloodshed. However, when he heard that heaven-defying divine weapon, it seemed that they were just using each other. Of course, this was normal. Not to mention the existence of a heaven-defying divine weapon, even if it was just an ordinary creature, most of them were selfish. If it didn't threaten their own interests, they would call each other brothers and have a very good relationship. Once there was a threat to their own interests, who would care about who you were? After sending Snowflake to the Black Tortoise realm, Qin Feiyang looked around. The ferocious beasts nearby weren't very strong. It was safe for the time being. However, since the Blood Hall already knew that he had come to the Western continent, they would definitely send people to search around. Thinking of this, Qin Feiyang couldn't help but feel annoyed. Originally, he wanted to enter the Western continent without anyone knowing and secretly investigate the whereabouts of the Mermaid Emperor, the White-Winged Emperor, the Alliance Master, and the two divine beasts. However, he didn't expect Little Rabbit to make such a scene. Now that the Blood Hall was on guard, it would be countless times more difficult to investigate these matters. Sigh. Yueqing also let out a soft sigh at this moment. Her expression was full of helplessness. What's wrong? Qin Feiyang looked at her suspiciously. Originally, I was thinking about how to negotiate with the Blood Hall and let the Tianyue Tower continue to develop in the Western continent. However, now that they have made such a scene, the Blood Hall will definitely think that I am your accomplice. Tell me, if I go to them now, what's the difference between that and sending myself to death? Yueqing looked worried. A good plan was ruined by Little Rabbit just like that. It's my fault. I shouldn't have gone to look for it. Qin Feiyang smiled bitterly. It's meaningless to say this now. Let's think about how to solve this problem. Yueqing lowered her head and frowned. She looked very irritated. Eldest Xing glanced at her and transmitted his voice, "Young master, these two women are very ambitious. You'd better keep a distance from them to avoid being used by them." Use? Qin Feiyang was stunned. Yes. With your current identity and status in the Eastern continent, just a word from you can change everything. They are trying to curry favor with you because they want to gain benefits from you and strengthen the foundation of the Tianyue Tower. Eldest Xing thought to himself. I'll be careful. Qin Feiyang pondered for a moment and then asked, just now at the Nine Dragon Mountain Range, I saw that the disciples of the Blood Hall seemed to know the situation in the Eastern continent very well. That's normal. Because our Independent Cultivator Alliance and the Demon Hall also have people lurking in the Western continent. For example, what happened to Old Hai in Cloud Sea City this time? We definitely won't miss such a thing that will damage the reputation of the Blood Hall. So, we immediately ordered our people lurking in the Western continent to spread the news. Naturally, the people in the Western continent know what happened in the Eastern continent. Eldest Xing said. I see. Qin Feiyang nodded in realization and said with a smile, it seems that Old Hai's reputation is not only in the Eastern continent, but also in the Western continent. Not only that. Everyone in the Southern continent and the Northern continent definitely knows about it now. In other words, Old Hai's name has truly spread throughout the sky cloud world. A rare trace of a smile appeared on Xing Da's unsmiling face. The two words Ming Yang were filled with a thick sense of irony. Huh. Qin Feiyang laughed loudly. To be honest, he hadn't expected that Old Hai would do such a thing in Cloud Sea City. The dignified Vice Hall Master of the Blood Hall, a renowned figure in the sky cloud world, had done such a thing. How could he not be a joke? Why don't we? Why don't you change your appearances and go to the nearby towns? I'll go to the Black Tortoise world to deal with some matters. Qin Feiyang looked at them and asked. All right. Both of them nodded. Then be careful. Qin Feiyang warned them and entered the Black Tortoise world. It's been so boring every day. As soon as Qin Feiyang entered the Black Tortoise world, he heard a soft and powerless sigh. He looked down and saw the white-eyed wolf lying in the medicinal field, surrounded by hundreds of empty wine jars. Qin Feiyang's forehead suddenly had blue veins popping out. He landed in front of the white-eyed wolf and kicked him, saying angrily, "Do you think you're drinking water? You just lie here and drink it every day. If you have nothing to do, why don't you drink?" The white-eyed wolf glanced at him indifferently. "Go cultivate," Qin Feiyang said angrily. Cultivate? I was born with extraordinary talent. Do I still need to cultivate? The white-eyed wolf said with a disdainful look. Qin Feiyang's face darkened and blue veins popped out. Extraordinary talent? He was simply shameless. But when he thought about it, he couldn't help it. Who asked this wolf cub to activate so many heaven-defying divine abilities? He did have the right to be proud. Sometimes, he couldn't figure it out. Was this wolf cub the reincarnation of a mighty figure? Otherwise, how could he be so abnormal? Even if he was quite perverted, compared to this wolf cub, he paled into insignificance and was not worth mentioning. Alright, you can eat and drink and wait for death. Qin Feiyang said weakly, turned around, and took a step forward. "Where are you going?" The white-eyed wolf was suspicious. "Soul-Sealing Valley," Qin Feiyang said without looking back. "Soul-Sealing Valley?" The white-eyed wolf was slightly stunned and quickly got up, asking, "There seems to be a heaven-defying artifact sealed in Soul-Sealing Valley, right?" "I'm going to find it," Qin Feiyang said. "Bring brother, I'll go take a look too. I've been schemed against by it many times in the past. Now it's time to find it and settle these old scores." The white-eyed wolf chuckled. Chapter 3286. Soul-Sealing Valley. Due to the expansion of the Black Tortoise realm, the Soul-Sealing Valley was now dozens of times larger than before. It was intricate and complicated like a maze. Now, the Soul-Sealing Valley was still a forbidden area in the Black Tortoise realm. Any living being below the false god realm would be petrified as soon as they stepped into the Soul-Sealing Valley. Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf hid their auras and stepped into the Soul-Sealing Valley step by step. Deep inside, a 9-story stone tower stood on the ground. It was completely black and exuded an ancient aura. On the stone tower, there were 2 iron chains that crossed each other. Each of them was as thick as an arm and flickered with black light. On the iron chains in the stone tower, one could clearly feel the aura of a seal. "Brother Qin," a black shadow rushed out, its voice full of excitement. "Long time no see." Qin Feiyang smiled. "Yes. How many years has it been? I've been looking forward to your arrival every day." The black shadow was filled with emotions. "What do you want me to do?" Qin Feiyang was suspicious. "Aren't you asking the obvious?" The black shadow smiled bitterly. What else could it be looking forward to? Of course it was to unlock the seal. Qin Feiyang faintly smiled. He glanced at the iron chains on the stone tower and said with a smile, "You seem to have said that to undo your seal, I only need to cut these 2 iron chains?" "Yes, yes, yes." The black shadow nodded repeatedly, its tone full of anticipation. "But why should I help you unlock the seal?" Qin Feiyang asked with a smile. The black shadow was slightly stunned and hurriedly said, "I can help you." "Help me?" Qin Feiyang released a little bit of his aura and said with a smile, "Look at me now, do I need your help?" He did not release all of his aura, only the aura of the Major Achievement Immortal Realm. Major Achievement Immortal Realm? The black shadow looked at Qin Feiyang in shock and said, "I remember the last time I saw you, you were just a beginner Immortal Realm expert. This is too fast. Then why don't you think about how many years have passed in the Black Tortoise Realm?" Qin Feiyang smiled. "That's true." The black shadow nodded and said, "Although you've already reached the great undying realm, you're still far from a heaven-defying divine weapon like me. Trust me, I can definitely help you." "Can you really make me believe you?" Qin Feiyang asked. "Really? I swear that I will serve you until my death, even if I have to sacrifice my life." The black figure swore solemnly. Qin Feiyang pondered for a while and nodded. "All right, I'll believe you this time." Thank you, thank you." The black figure bowed repeatedly. Qin Feiyang waved his hand, and Snow and Blood Edge appeared beside him. "Old friend, long time no see." The Blood Blade's artifact spirit cackled. "It's you? You guys are also in the Black Tortoise world?" The black shadow was stunned. "That's right." The Blood Edge answered and immediately cut through the air, slashing at the 2 chains. With a loud clang, the 2 chains immediately broke. The moment the 2 chains broke, the stone tower also began to crack inch by inch, and a terrifying aura surged out from within. If Qin Feiyang was really at the Undying Realm, he definitely wouldn't be able to withstand this aura. Because this was the divine might of a heaven-defying divine weapon. But at the same time, a pungent stench accompanied it. What's that smell? Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf immediately pinched their noses and quickly retreated. Snow and Blood Edge were the same, and the stench was simply overwhelming. The Blood Edge's artifact spirit sighed. As expected, you couldn't escape this fate. What do you mean? Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf looked at it suspiciously. The Blood Edge said, you should also know about the embarrassing incident when we first escaped, right? Embarrassing incident when we first escaped? Qin Feiyang was slightly stunned, carefully recalled for a moment, and suddenly said, Mu Tianyang and the others seem to have said that you were all suppressed in a cesspool back then? That's right. This was all done by that damned small beast. And now, smelling this stench, this guy must be like us. The Blood Edge and Snow's tone were very angry, but at the same time there was a trace of gloating. Huh, suppressed in the cesspool for so long, when will the stench on its body dissipate? The white-eyed wolf laughed. Cough cough. The Blood Edge and Snow coughed dryly, continuing to discuss this topic. Just listening to it made them uncomfortable. Crack. Finally. The stone tower fell apart. The stench completely exploded, enveloping the entire soul-sealing valley. Qin Feiyang, the white-eyed wolf, Snow, and the Blood Edge hurriedly escaped, and couldn't help but vomit. This old wine is really fucking disgusting. The white-eyed wolf greedily breathed in the fresh air. Old wine? Qin Feiyang, Snow, and the Blood Edge heard this and were extremely speechless. This lord is finally free. At the same time, in the soul-sealing valley, there was also a wild laughter. Following closely, Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf felt a wave of heat sweep over, and the heaven and earth here instantly turned into a big furnace. Last time I heard it say that it has the law of fire, I didn't believe it, but now it seems to be true. Qin Feiyang whispered. He was naturally no stranger to the law of fire, and at this moment, the heat wave that rushed out of the soul-sealing valley was formed by the law of fire. In just a few breaths, the entire soul-sealing valley was melted and turned into a sea of magma. Once in his eyes, the law of fire was an unattainable existence. As for now, he didn't put it in his eyes, unless it was the supreme profound or the ultimate profound. Whoosh! Not long after, a flame flashed out like lightning. Qin Feiyang fixed his eyes on it. It turned out to be a palm-sized fire bead, similar to the heaven-defying divine weapon of his ancestor Qin Batian. However, the fire bead of his ancestor had a purple-gold divine dragon pattern on the outside, and this fire bead was quite pure, without any pattern, as if it was condensed out of flames. The fire bead flew out, smiled ferociously, and roared, "Boy, die." Immediately, it rushed towards Qin Feiyang. Sure enough, his character never changes. Qin Feiyang murmured. The white-eyed wolf also laughed evilly. N. At the same time, Snow and Blood Edge saw this and quickly blocked in front of Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf, and shouted, "What are you doing?" "What am I doing? Of course, I'm going to kill him and snatch the black tortoise boundary." The fire bead grinned. "Snatch the black tortoise boundary? You're crazy." Snow and Blood Edge were startled. Was the current Qin Feiyang someone they could offend? Offending him was the same as courting death. What do you mean? He's just at the imperishable realm. Why are you afraid of him? Could it be that after being sealed for so many years, even your guts have shrunk? The fire bead said angrily. Imperishable realm? Snowflake and Bloodshed were stunned. They looked at Qin Feiyang and couldn't help but be stunned. Was he really at the eternal realm? What was going on? Hadn't this boy broken through to the Dominator realm? Looking at the white-eyed wolf, they found that he was also at the imperishable realm. However, soon, they understood that he had deliberately suppressed his cultivation to test the fire bead. calm down. Don't seek your own death. Blood Edge quickly shouted at the fire bead. Yeah, it wasn't easy for me to persuade Qin Feiyang to help you break the seal, but you repay kindness with enmity. If I had known earlier, I wouldn't have cared about your life. Snow was also furious. If it hadn't reminded Qin Feiyang, this guy would have been suppressed here for a long time. But now, as soon as it was freed, it attacked Qin Feiyang. Could you afford to offend this ferocious man? You don't have guts. I'll do it. Get out of the way. The fire bead shouted impatiently. You really don't know what's good for you. Snow was furious. The aura of the legendary level divine weapon rolled out, which frightened the fire bead. It shouted, "How did your aura become so strong?" Not only it, but I'm also stronger than before. Blood Edge also released his aura. What's going on? The fire bead was stunned. Times have changed. In the past, our strength could dominate the world, but not now. With your current strength, let alone us, even Qin Feiyang can easily crush you. Snow snorted. Crush me? The fire bead was stunned. Do you really think we're only at the imperishable realm? The white-eyed wolf grinned and released his aura. The aura of a half-step dominator was no weaker than the fire bead. The fire bead was a low-level heaven-defying divine weapon, and its strength was comparable to a half-step dominator. However, after being sealed for so many years, its strength had dropped a lot. So now, let alone Qin Feiyang, even the white-eyed wolf could crush it. No. The ingrate had now grasped the supreme profoundness of the law of death. Even Qin Feiyang would find it difficult to defeat it, let alone this fire pearl. A single swipe of its paw would be enough to shatter it. This, looking at the white-eyed wolf's aura, the fire bead was petrified again. You know what? I'm very unhappy right now. Qin Feiyang finally spoke. He didn't hide his low-level dominator cultivation anymore. What a powerful aura. The fire pearl began to tremble. The emotions it revealed were filled with fear. Now you understand why we stopped you. It's not just you. Even we don't dare to act rashly. As for seizing the Black Tortoise world, you don't have the ability to do so. Do you know that ancient castle that fused with the Black Tortoise world? It's now a dominator weapon. Snowflake sneered. A dominator weapon. The fire bead trembled. Wasn't this change a little too fast? What are you still standing there for? Hurry up and apologize. Do you want to die? Bloodblade roared. The fire bead shivered and hurriedly begged, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. I was wrong, I was wrong. I won't do it again. Believe me, I beg you. Then tell me, how can I believe you now? Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed coldly. Don't talk nonsense. Just cripple it. The white-eyed wolf sneered, but as soon as it charged forward, it immediately covered its nose and retreated. It roared, this motherfucker is too smelly. I can't do it. Qin Feiyang was amused by its comical appearance. But it was true. The fire bead had just come out of the latrine. Its stench was enough to kill people. Yes, yes. I'm so smelly. Don't dirty your hands. You're great people, please forgive me. Give me another chance. The fire bead pleaded as it flew toward Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf. Stop, don't come over. The white-eyed wolf hurriedly waved its claws. This was the first time it had encountered such a heaven-defying divine weapon. Other than disgusting, it couldn't find any other words to describe it. Chapter 3287. Qin Feiyang, I think we should just forget about it and give it another chance. Snow pondered for a while and finally decided to plead for the fire bead. That's right. Let's not talk about anything else. Let's talk about this small beast. It's our common enemy. Although it's very strong now, one day, when we evolve into sovereign divine weapons, we'll definitely have the power to fight it. And after this incident, I think the fire bead won't dare to do it again. Blood Blade added. Qin Feiyang looked at the two divine weapons and his eyes flickered. Snow pondered for a while and said to the fire bead, "Well, you make a blood oath to Qin Feiyang." Blood oath? Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf were stunned. What was that? A blood oath is also a kind of oath. But a blood oath is different from an ordinary oath. A blood oath is a kind of poison oath. As long as you make a blood oath, you can't violate it. Otherwise, you'll be killed by the heavenly tribulation. Snow explained. There's such an oath? Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf were surprised. Yes. But it's been too long, and the blood oath is basically lost now. Except for old antiques like us, almost no one knows about the existence of the blood oath. Snow said. Okay. Then make a blood oath. Qin Feiyang looked at the fire bead and said lightly, his eyes full of curiosity. Blood oath, sigh. The fire bead sighed deeply, as if it was unwilling. Then the artifact spirit floated out and turned into a black shadow. It looked at the sky and said, "Today, I make a blood oath. From now on, I'll be friends with Qin Feiyang and never betray him. If I violate this oath, I'll be punished by the heavenly tribulation and be destroyed." As its voice fell, a blood cloud suddenly appeared in the sky, and the whole sky instantly turned blood red. Then, a blood mark fell from the sky and entered the black shadow's body. This is an oath mark. The blood oath has been made. You can rest assured now. Snow said to Qin Feiyang. Will this work? Qin Feiyang expressed his doubts. It was indeed the first time he had seen such an oath phenomenon, but it was also because it was the first time he had seen it that he found it hard to believe. Because he had never heard of such a thing as a blood oath. Now that we have to rely on you, would we dare to lie to you? Snow smiled bitterly. All right, I believe you too. Qin Feiyang nodded. His eyes were filled with anticipation as he asked, "Can you teach me the blood oath?" Of course. As for the blood oath, we divine artifacts don't have bodies of flesh and blood, so we use the artifact spirit as the catalyst. However, you humans need to use your own blood essence as the catalyst. Snowflake told Qin Feiyang the methods one by one. Qin Feiyang firmly remembered this in his heart. If he had the chance, he would find someone to test it out. White-eyed Wolf said, "Big Bro also has a question." What is it? Snowflake and Bloodshed were suspicious. Just now, I heard you say that the era has changed. What does that mean? The white-eyed wolf was puzzled. It's very simple. The era is progressing. In the past, our strength could be said to be the strongest existence besides the God of creation. But after so many years, everything has changed dramatically. For example, the cultivation system, the realm, they are all different from before. Snowflake said. So, you really have an intersection with the God of creation? White-eyed Wolf was surprised. Of course. I'm definitely not joking with you about this. It can even be said that the God of creation and small beast are still juniors in front of us. Snowflake said. Juniors? Qin Feiyang and White-eyed Wolf looked at each other. Yes. When we controlled a place, they had not yet grown up. In short, they were the same as you are now. Unfortunately, they were lucky, especially this Wuxian. He was born with a world, and in the end, he succeeded in becoming a god of creation. Everything you see now, including the pill scripture, the laws, and profound meanings, should have been created by him because these things did not exist before. Moreover, whether it is Great Qin, the Forgotten Continent, or the Sky Cloud Realm, they were all created by him. Your current situation is the same as the creatures of the Black Tortoise realm, living in the world he created. As long as he wills it, he will be able to see your every move. So, if you really want to be free, there is only one path, which is to break this world's cage and become an existence like him. Snowflake said. So it's like that. Qin Feiyang nodded in understanding and looked up at the sky. In actuality, he had been prepared for this for a long time, but breaking this world's cage was easier said than done. I know what you're thinking. If you didn't have the Black Tortoise realm, then there would be no hope. Because to become a god of creation, having a world is a prerequisite. But it's different now. You have the Black Tortoise realm. As long as you stay alive, you will definitely be able to do it in the future. Snowflake said. I hope so. Qin Feiyang sighed. There's one more thing. Everyone is building a statue for you. You must not stop them. Bloodshed suddenly said. Qin Feiyang was surprised. In this world, other than divine power, law energy, and origin energy, there is another powerful force. This force can be said to be even stronger than law energy, and can even compete with origin energy. Bloodshed's tone was filled with fanaticism. What? Even stronger than law energy? It can even compete with the origin energy? Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf were shocked. That's right. This force is the power of faith. The so-called power of faith comes from the creatures of this world. For example, the creatures of the Black Tortoise realm. They respect you, admire you, worship you, and see you as their faith. That will slowly produce the power of faith. There's a good saying, water can carry a boat, but it can also capsize it. The same is true for a world. The creatures of this world can support it, but they can also destroy it. Of course, before Wuxian became a god of creation, he relied on the power of faith to kill countless powerful enemies. So now, do you understand how powerful the power of faith is? Bloodshed said. I understand. Qin Feiyang nodded and then asked suspiciously, since people worship and faith will produce the power of faith. Right now, there are many people in the Black Tortoise realm, Great Qin, and the Forgotten Continent worshipping me, so why don't I feel any power of faith? It's probably because your realm hasn't reached that level yet. Bloodshed said after thinking for a moment. Then what realm must one reach to be able to feel the power of faith? Or rather, what realm must one reach to be able to control the power of faith? Qin Feiyang asked. We don't know because we haven't obtained the power of faith. Moreover, the times are different now. There are many things that can't be measured with the standards of our era. In short, the power of faith definitely exists. When you can truly control the power of faith, you'll be an invincible existence. Even if you face the god of creation and small beast, you'll have the power to fight. Bloodshed said. So powerful, Qin Feiyang couldn't help but be fascinated. Of course, you can't be careless. When they suppressed us back then, the god of creation and small beast were already very powerful. Now that so many years have passed, they'll definitely be stronger than before, so you have to be prepared. There's not much we can help you with, but we'll do our best. Bloodshed said. Whoosh. Qin Feiyang took a deep breath and asked, then how can I become a true god of creation? This, actually, we're not too sure. However, I'm guessing that it's related to the power of laws now. Especially the law of life and death. Actually, right now, you don't need to think about this. Raising your own strength is the most important thing. Bloodshed and Snow pondered for a moment before saying. All right. Qin Feiyang nodded, then looked at Firebead and said, don't go to the land of origin for the time being. Stay here and wait for the stench to dissipate before going. How long do I have to wait? Firebead was quite anxious. For now, it had to cultivate as soon as possible. The gap between it and snow and bloodshed would only get bigger and bigger. Snow said, actually, this stench can be purified with the power of origin. It's very fast. I see. Alright, you guys go by yourselves. Qin Feiyang smiled. Thank you. Fire Bead was very grateful. Snow was about to fly into the sky, but it suddenly stopped and said to Qin Feiyang, right, actually, that grey castle is also our companion. Qin Feiyang was startled. But what exactly is it doing? We don't know. After Snow finished speaking, it disappeared into the sky like lightning with bloodshed and fire bead. Damn, I didn't expect their existence to be even older than the god of creation. The white-eyed wolf's eyes were full of disbelief. That's why there's an old saying that you can't judge a book by its cover. Qin Feiyang smiled, then pondered for a while and said, actually, we still have a lot of questions that we don't understand. What is the Grey Castle doing? Who is the blood ancestor? Where does the power of the purple gold dragon blood come from? And why did the god of creation give me Chang Shui and the Grey Castle? He even gave me the 6-word divine formula. Now that you mention it, it's really a mystery. The white-eyed wolf muttered. Let's slowly investigate. The truth will come out one day. After saying that, Qin Feiyang looked at the white-eyed wolf and said with a sneaky smile, why don't we try this blood oath? How? The white-eyed wolf was stunned and asked suspiciously. You make a blood oath and then break it to see if you'll be punished by the heavens. Qin Feiyang smiled slyly. The white-eyed wolf twitched the corner of his mouth and nodded. Okay, you do it. Ahem. Qin Feiyang coughed and said, you're more powerful than me. Even if you're punished by the heavens, it probably won't kill you. Get lost. The white-eyed wolf glared at him fiercely. What a joke. If the blood oath really had such power, wouldn't it be equivalent to courting death by trying it? Qin Feiyang smiled embarrassedly. However, this blood oath really had to be tested. Because, if what Snowflake and the others said was true, that breaking the oath would be punished by the heavens, then when facing enemies in the future, such as the Blood Hall Master, he would first trick him to make a blood oath, and then, based on the Blood Hall Master's character, he definitely wouldn't care. At that time, when the Blood Hall Master broke the oath, he might be struck to death by the heavenly thunder without needing to do anything. Moreover, if he wanted to subdue someone with a higher cultivation than him in the future, he didn't need to find ways to persuade the other party and then use the slave seal to control him. He could make the other party make a blood oath. In this way, even if he couldn't peek into the other party's inner thoughts, the other party wouldn't dare to betray him. All in all, if this blood oath was true, it would be quite useful. Qin Feiyang pondered for a while, then looked at the white-eyed wolf and said, since you don't want to cultivate, then go out with me. No. The white-eyed wolf shook his head. Didn't you say that it's very boring every day? Now I'm asking you to go out and have fun, are you still not willing? Qin Feiyang's face darkened. It was okay in the past, he had been helping, but after breaking through to the war god level, this guy had become lazier and lazier, almost becoming a pig. The white-eyed wolf pursed his lips and said, if you allow me to bring the Xuanwu divine brew, I'll go out. Chapter 3288. You still want to negotiate with me? Qin Feiyang was stunned. This wolf cub was getting arrogant. He then asked, are you sure you want to take the black tortoise divine brew with you? Sure, and certain. The white-eyed wolf nodded. He picked his nose and looked at Qin Feiyang triumphantly. Good. Qin Feiyang nodded and sneered, I will go and put away the black tortoise divine brew now. Don't even think about drinking it in the future. Put it away. At first, the white-eyed wolf thought that Qin Feiyang said good because he agreed. But when he heard the last sentence, his expression suddenly stiffened. He quickly hugged Qin Feiyang's thigh and said with a flattering smile, "Don't be like this. It's just a joke." "Just a joke?" Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed with a smile. "Little guy, you think I can't deal with you?" But his face was expressionless as he looked at the wolf. Yes, it's just a joke. Actually, I have long wanted to go out and have some fun, but I was worried. Aren't you always afraid that I will cause trouble for you? That's why I didn't say anything." The white-eyed wolf grinned. "So, you are still thinking for me, and I have to thank you?" Qin Feiyang looked at him with a strange expression. "I am just thinking for you. I don't want to cause trouble for you. As for thank you, there is no need. Words of gratitude between brothers are too polite." The white-eyed wolf laughed. "Get lost. I have never seen a wolf as shameless as you." Qin Feiyang's face darkened. He waved his hand and a man and a wolf appeared at the peak of Mad Bull Mountain. Xingde and Yuqing were nowhere to be seen. The surrounding mountains and rivers were quiet except for the roars of the fierce beasts. This western continent doesn't look any different from the eastern continent. The white-eyed wolf looked around and pursed his lips. They are both in the sky cloud realm. How big of a difference can there be? The key is whether the person is good or bad. Tell me, how can we find the Mermaid Emperor and the White-Winged Emperor faster? Qin Feiyang frowned. I'm afraid it won't be easy to find. Since the Blood Hall already knows that we are here, they will definitely hide carefully. The white-eyed wolf shook his head. I think so too. Qin Feiyang nodded. Right. Suddenly, white-eyed wolf slapped his head and looked at Qin Feiyang. Did we forget about someone? Who is it? Qin Feiyang looked at it suspiciously. It's that little brat who followed Old Hai to the great Qin Empire to kidnap the bride. We can't afford to offend old monsters like Old Hai and the Master of the Blood Hall. But this brat is only at the imperishable realm. What is he to us? If we can find him, wouldn't all these problems be solved? The white-eyed wolf chuckled. That's right. Qin Feiyang also slapped his head. How could he forget about this person? Although we killed him in the space-time transmission channel, Old Hua said that he left his divine soul in the Blood Hall. But, it shouldn't be easy to find him now. After all, this is a special time. The Master of the Blood Hall will definitely not allow him to run around. The white-eyed wolf said again. As long as we lock onto the target, there is nothing we can't do. Qin Feiyang smiled. Even if this person was locked in the Blood Hall, he had to trick him out. After pondering for a while, Qin Feiyang took out the sound transmission god stone. Buzz. Soon, an ugly middle-aged woman appeared. Beside her was a middle-aged man. His appearance was also unremarkable. The two of them stood in a small alley. There was no one else around. Who is this? He looks too smelly. The white-eyed wolf looked at the middle-aged woman in astonishment. When the middle-aged woman heard this, her face immediately darkened. Cough. Cough. Qin Feiyang coughed dryly and said, She is Yuqing. It's you. Even if you change your appearance, can't you look a little better? The white-eyed wolf laughed strangely. Yuqing did not bother to pay attention to the white-eyed wolf. She looked at Qin Feiyang and asked, What's wrong? Where are you now? Qin Feiyang asked. In a small city called Jinyuan City. Yuqing said. Did you find out anything? Qin Feiyang said. We just entered the city. What can we find out? Yuqing was speechless. Qin Feiyang was stunned. After thinking for a while, he understood. Although it had been a while in the Black Tortoise world, it had not been long in the outside world. He said, Give me your coordinates. Are you coming too? Yuqing asked. Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded. Okay. Yueqing immediately gave the coordinates to Qin Feiyang. Change your appearance. Qin Feiyang put away the divine sound transmission stone and said something to the white-eyed wolf. Then, he took an illusory form pill and turned into a young man of 18 or 19 years old. He even changed into a purple robe, looking quite luxurious. The white-eyed wolf thought for a while and turned into a big fat cat. It looked like a black coal ball. How is it? Now, even if the people from the blood hall have fiery eyes of truth, they won't be able to recognize me. The white-eyed wolf laughed. Let alone the blood hall, even I can recognize you. Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled. Then, he opened an altar. Yueqing only gave him one coordinate. Naturally, he only needed one teleportation altar. This meant that Jinyuan City was not far from the Mad Bull Mountain. In the alley, Yueqing waited quietly. Suddenly, Yueqing looked at Xingde and asked, Master Xing, you're here to protect Qin Dage, right? Yes. Xingde nodded. Qin Dage is really lucky to have such a good master like the deputy chief. Yueqing smiled. Xingde said expressionlessly, you're also very lucky to be taken care of by the young master. Yes. If it weren't for Qin Dage's care, not to mention the Tianyue building, I'm afraid I wouldn't even be able to keep my life. Yueqing nodded and smiled. Her face was full of gratitude. Xingde's eyes flashed. He looked at Yueqing and said, since we've already said this, I might as well say one more thing. Since you know that the young master is good to you, please cherish it. What do you mean, master? Yueqing was stunned and looked at Xingde suspiciously. What I mean is, don't do anything that will let the young master down. Otherwise, not to mention the western mainland, the Tianyue building won't even be able to develop in the eastern mainland. Xingde's eyes flashed coldly. Yueqing's pupils constricted as she imperceptibly felt a strand of terrifying killing intent, and she hurriedly nodded and said, Don't worry, even though I'm a woman, I still know how to repay kindness. That's good. Xingde nodded his head and then fell silent. The cold light in his eyes also disappeared. Swoosh! Right at this moment, a man in purple and green carried a big fat cat and landed in the alley. Young master? Xingde turned and looked at the middle-aged man suspiciously. Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded. Pfft! When they saw the white-eyed wolf, Yueqing burst out laughing. Xingde also had a smile on his face. What are you laughing at? Haven't you seen such a cute kitten? The white-eyed wolf raised his eyebrows. Cute? Come on, with your round figure, I'll feel greasy if I stew it with wine. Yueqing looked down on him. Little girl, are you looking for a beating? The white-eyed wolf suddenly jumped out and stared at Yueqing fiercely. You're allowed to make fun of me, but I'm not allowed to talk about you. Yueqing was displeased. Alright, let's go. Qin Feiyang grabbed the white-eyed wolf and carried it in his arms. He walked out of the alley arrogantly, like a rich playboy who was carrying a pet and going sightseeing on the streets. Xingde and Yueqing looked at each other and quickly followed. They, on the other hand, were like two servants. Jinyuan City wasn't big, with a population of about 100,000 people. However, because it was close to the Heavenly Clouds Ocean, many people who were training in the Heavenly Clouds Ocean would come here to recuperate and buy resources. Therefore, it was quite lively. In a certain place in the city, there was a restaurant called the Drifting Fragrance Restaurant. Qin Feiyang led Xingde and Xingde in. Under the service of the waiter, the three of them sat in a corner of the main hall. They had a pot of wine and a few dishes. They ate while listening to the discussions in the surroundings. Do you guys think that Qin Feiyang from the Eastern continent is really the reincarnation of a demonic genius? Who knows? In any case, I know that the things he did in the Eastern continent aren't something a human can do. Our Western continent's reputation has really hit rock bottom this time around. I'm puzzled. What is the Vice Lord of the Blood Hall thinking? To do such disgraceful things, he has thrown his face all the way to the Eastern continent. The three of them listened for a long time, and almost all of the discussions were about Qin Feiyang. Seems like old Hai, this old thing, is also a street rat in the Western continent. White-Eyed Wolf grinned. You can't blame the people of the Western continent. After all, what he did this time was really too stupid. If I was from the Western continent, would also scold him behind his back. Yuqing shook her head. Then, she seemed to have noticed something. She glanced at the entrance of the restaurant and patted Qin Feiyang's arm. She said in a low voice, Qin Dage, look. Qin Feiyang was slightly stunned. He put down the wine cup in his hand and turned his head to look suspiciously. He saw three young men walking in from outside. The three of them looked to be in their 20s. Their cultivation was at the complete imperishable realm. The moment the three of them entered the restaurant, the discussions in the surroundings stopped abruptly. Everyone looked at the three of them with a trace of deep fear in their eyes. This was because the three of them had a blood symbol on their clothes. However, their clothes were slightly tattered and there were many bloodstains on their bodies. They also looked angry and irritated. They are disciples of the Blood Hall. Eldest Xing glanced at the blood symbol and transmitted his voice. Disciples of the Blood Hall, Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed. After the three of them entered the restaurant, they glanced at the hall and walked straight to an empty table. Coincidentally, the empty table was right next to Qin Feiyang's table. Bring me the best wine and dishes in your restaurant. Be quick. One of them looked at the restaurant's waiter who ran over and shouted. Okay. The waiter came to a sudden stop and immediately turned around and ran away. Who could not slight the disciples of the Blood Hall? Even if they were just ordinary disciples, they could not be offended. Chapter 3289. How unlucky. We've been to the heavenly cloud ocean so many times, but we haven't found a single decent divine object. One of the Blood Hall's disciples cursed. The other disciple was also annoyed. The third Blood Hall disciple glanced at the two and shook his head. When we went there, I suggested that we either don't go or go to the deeper part of the ocean. You two didn't listen and insisted on trying your luck at the edge. In the end, not only did you not find any divine objects, but you were also chased by sea beasts and almost lost your lives. How dare you say that? With our cultivation, we can't even beat the sea beasts at the edge. Going to the deeper part of the ocean is no different from going to death. The other two rolled their eyes. Enough. Let's not talk about these annoying things. The most important thing now is to find Qin Feiyang's trace. One of the Blood Hall disciples said with greed in his eyes. Qin Feiyang's group and the White-Eyed Wolf looked at each other and couldn't help but look at the three disciples. At the same time, the other people in the restaurant also looked at the three disciples. Find Qin Feiyang's trace. What did that mean? Wasn't Qin Feiyang in the Eastern continent? How could the people of the Western continent find him? What are you looking at? The three disciples glanced at the people around them with an unfriendly expression. One of the diners said with a flattering smile, "My lords, don't be angry. We're just curious." There's nothing to be curious about. Besides, even if Qin Feiyang appears in front of you, what can you do? You can only stare at him. The three disciples looked disdainful. Yes, yes, yes. Everyone nodded repeatedly. Jinyuan City was only a small city. The highest cultivation level of the people who stayed here was only at the undead realm. As for sovereign realm experts, it was hard to find one even in 10 years. Therefore, no one had the confidence to face Qin Feiyang. One of the Blood Hall disciples looked at the diners around and said with a smile, "However, since you've already mentioned Qin Feiyang, I might as well tell you the truth." Immediately, everyone pricked up their ears. The waiter of the restaurant served the dishes and wine. He also poured wine for the three of them while listening with anticipation. The Blood Hall disciple raised his wine cup and drained it in one gulp. The fiery wine was like a flame rolling in his body. He laughed and said, "Comfortable. Please drink more." The waiter gave a flattering smile and hurriedly poured more for him. The other two Blood Hall disciples looked at each other and transmitted their voices to this person, "Senior brother, what are you doing? Are we really going to tell them? Since this matter will be exposed sooner or later, there's no harm in telling them. What if we are lucky and Qin Feiyang is hiding somewhere near Jinyuan City? If these people help us find him, it will be our contribution. The higher-ups will definitely reward us handsomely. Taking a step back, even if we don't find it, we won't lose anything." The Blood Hall disciples snickered inwardly. Brilliant. When the other two Blood Hall disciples heard this, they couldn't help but secretly give him a thumbs up. The Blood Hall disciple drank another cup of wine. Looking at the people around him, he said with a smile, "To tell you the truth, not long ago, we received news that Qin Feiyang and his accomplices have entered our western continent." "What? They have entered our western continent?" Everyone was shocked. "That's right. I don't know if they did it on purpose or something else. They were directly teleported to our Nine Dragons mountain range. If they didn't run fast enough, I'm afraid they would be dead by now." The Blood Hall disciple sneered. "No way. They were directly teleported to the Nine Dragons mountain range? That's the headquarters of the Blood Hall. That's too arrogant." Everyone's face was full of shock. It was hard to imagine how he dared to teleport directly to the Nine Dragons mountain range. Was it a provocation? No way. With what Qin Feiyang had done in the eastern continent, it was really possible. In short, regardless of whether it was intentional or not, just this point alone was worthy of admiration. Because the Nine Dragons mountain range was the largest forbidden area in the western continent. Except for the Blood Hall, outsiders were not allowed to set foot in it. The most important thing was, even if he delivered himself to their door, the Blood Hall people did not stop him. This person's means and courage were indeed worthy of his reputation. Look at the look in your eyes. It seems that you admire Qin Feiyang a lot. The three Blood Hall disciples frowned and looked at the crowd unkindly. No, absolutely not. Even if you lent us the courage, we wouldn't dare to have such thoughts. We're just scared by Qin Feiyang. At the same time, we're also very angry. We didn't expect him to be so arrogant and run directly to the Nine Dragons mountain range. This is not only a provocation to the Blood Hall, but also to the entire western continent. Everyone hurriedly hid their inner thoughts and shouted angrily. Those angry faces really seemed to have a deep hatred for Qin Feiyang. Hearing these words, the three were very satisfied, and smiles appeared on their faces again. Although Qin Feiyang escaped from the Heavenly Dragon mountain range, and he might even be feeling proud of himself right now, you can't even stop me when I barged into your headquarters. It seems like your Blood Hall isn't that great either. However, he neglected a very serious problem. The Blood Hall disciple sneered. This person's imagination is really rich. The white-eyed wolf looked at the person with ridicule in his eyes. This was a typical example of thinking smart. But I have to admit that it's really interesting. Qin Feiyang secretly smiled. If the Blood Hall was like this, it would be easy to deal with. What problem did he neglect? Xingda's eyes flashed as he asked curiously. The Blood Hall disciple looked at Xingda, then looked at Qin Feiyang, Yueqing, and the white-eyed wolf. He did not take it to heart at all. He only thought that Qin Feiyang was a hedonistic son of some family. Otherwise, who would carry a big fat cat and come to the restaurant for fun? However, these hedonistic sons were really disgusting. Wasn't it because they were lucky when they were reincarnated and met a rich and powerful family? Putting aside the power behind them, they had no ability at all. What he neglected is that this is not the Eastern continent, but the Western continent. The Western continent is my blood hall's territory. If you are a dragon, you have to coil up. If you are a tiger, you have to lie down. In short, as long as he comes to the Western continent, he will not be able to escape even if he has heaven-defying abilities. The blood hall disciple smiled proudly. Well said. Qin Feiyang immediately clapped his hands and said with a smile, how can we, the Western continent, allow a Qin Feiyang to strut around and do whatever he wants? The three blood hall disciples sized up Qin Feiyang and said in surprise, I really didn't expect that a hedonistic son of rich parents like you would have such courage. Cough cough. Qin Feiyang coughed and said helplessly, how do I look like a hedonistic son of rich parents? You look like one everywhere. The three rolled their eyes and said, the higher-ups of our blood hall have already issued an order to search the entire continent for Qin Feiyang and his accomplices. There will also be generous rewards. Rewards? Why didn't we know about this? There was no news at all. Everyone was stunned. Because this matter has just happened, the arrest warrant hasn't been issued yet. However, it won't be long before you can see their arrest warrants at the city gates of major cities. Let me tell you, you must cherish this opportunity because the rewards this time are very special. Anyone who reports Qin Feiyang's whereabouts will immediately become a core disciple of our blood hall as long as it is verified to be true. Moreover, you will be rewarded with a supreme-grade heaven-defying divine artifact and a supreme-grade heaven-defying divine art. As soon as the blood hall disciples finished speaking, the restaurant was in an uproar. Core disciples. A supreme-grade heaven-defying divine artifact and a supreme-grade heaven-defying divine art. Not to mention people from small places like them, even the blood hall disciples were full of fatal temptation. This was because there was a huge difference between ordinary disciples and core disciples. For example, the three people in front of them were ordinary disciples. The treatment they enjoyed was far inferior to those core disciples. Let's use a simple analogy. If a core disciple was compared to a sun, then an ordinary disciple was equivalent to someone picked up from the roadside. It was completely comparable. Let's talk about the supreme-grade heaven-defying divine artifact and heaven-defying divine art. A supreme-grade heaven-defying divine artifact, let alone an ordinary disciple, even a core disciple who was comparable to a sun would find it extremely difficult to obtain one. Only the true elites among the core disciples had a chance to obtain it. Moreover, at most, they only had one. For example, Jiang Feitian and Nie Xiang. The two of them were considered the best among the core disciples. However, they only had one supreme-grade heaven-defying divine artifact. Jiang Feitian's supreme-grade heaven-defying divine artifact was the flaming long saber. Unfortunately, it was scrapped in the hands of the little rabbit before it could appear. Nie Xiang's supreme-grade heaven-defying divine art was his supreme-grade heaven-defying divine art. As for the sky-piercer halberd and armor, they were given to him by Old Hai at the last minute. Therefore, when they heard about this generous reward, everyone's heart palpitated with eagerness. Because once they obtained this reward, it was equivalent to a carp leaping over the dragon gate and soaring into the sky. How is it? You're tempted. Since you're tempted, why don't you act quickly? This Qin Feiyang's whereabouts are unknown. Maybe he's near Jinyuan City now, or even right beside us now. The three blood hall disciples laughed. Right beside us? Everyone immediately looked around. They looked at each other with cold light flashing in their eyes. They looked as if they couldn't wait to tear off the face of everyone around them to confirm if there was a fake face. The 3 Blood Hall disciples looked at each other with a trace of ridicule in their eyes. They didn't say anything more. While drinking, they chatted in a low voice about trivial matters. "Waiter, bill." Suddenly, a shout was heard. A burly man threw over a dozen divine gems, got up and left in a hurry. "Bill here, too. Bill here, too." Seeing this, the others also got up to pay the bill and quickly left the restaurant. Obviously, they had been tempted by this reward and started the long road to find Qin Feiyang. However, they didn't know that the person they were looking for was actually right beside them. Soon, there were only a few tables left in the restaurant that was full of guests. Qin Feiyang and the other 2 were at one table. The 3 Blood Hall disciples were at another table. The guests at the other 4 tables were also some young men and women. Chapter 3290. Why don't you go? The 3 people from the Blood Hall looked at Qin Feiyang's table and asked suspiciously. It's important to know one's own limits. This Qin Feiyang is so strong. Even if we can find him, we might already be in his hands before we can report to the Blood Hall. So, although the heaven-defying treasure is very tempting, our lives are more important. The young men and women at the other tables spoke one after another. There was a trace of fear in their eyes. Just say it if you're a coward. Why do you have to find such high-sounding excuses? A playboy will always be a playboy. No matter what, he won't be able to achieve anything. The 3 people from the Blood Hall mocked without hiding it. The young men and women immediately glared at the 3. What? You're not convinced? The 3 people raised their eyebrows and looked at the group with cold eyes. Immediately, the young men and women at the other tables changed their expressions slightly. Trash should have the awareness of being trash. Don't be an eyesore here. Scram. One of the disciples from the Blood Hall smiled contemptuously. When the group of young men and women heard this, they immediately took out some divine crystals and put them on the table. Then, they ran out of the restaurant as if they were running for their lives. Although they were very angry, they couldn't afford to offend the disciples of the Blood Hall. Quite overbearing. Qin Feiyang whispered. He picked up the wine cup and drank as if there was no one around. Then, he frowned. This was too disgusting. It tasted like horse urine. How could the 3 people from the Blood Hall drink it with such relish? Xingde and Yuqing didn't say anything. They just ate the dishes silently. As for the wine, Yuqing ran a restaurant. She could tell the quality of a wine just by smelling it. As for Xingde, he frowned just by looking at the wine cup. This meant that he could also tell the quality of the wine at a glance. As for the white-eyed wolf, it was needless to say. Now, except for the Xuanwu Divine Brew, no other wine could arouse its interest. It didn't even bother to look at it. Why aren't you leaving? Didn't you hear? The 3 people from the Blood Hall looked at Qin Feiyang and the others who were still sitting there calmly. A trace of hostility immediately appeared between their brows. There is. But why are we leaving? Qin Feiyang was slightly taken aback. He put down the wine cup and looked at the 3 people suspiciously. Young master, please leave. They are disciples of the Blood Hall. We can't afford to offend them. I see, your drinks and food are all free of charge. Just treat it as our restaurants treat. The shop assistant saw that the situation was not good, and hurriedly went forward to persuade him in a low voice. I don't quite understand what you mean. We are all guests of your restaurant just like them. Why are you driving us away because of them? Could it be that your restaurant was specially opened for them? If that's the case, then you shouldn't have let anyone else in. Besides, do we look like people who don't pay their bills? Qin Feiyang said with a smile as he stroked the white-eyed wolf's fur. Needless to say, the white-eyed wolf that had turned into a big fat cat was furry and very comfortable to touch. Sorry, I had no choice. I hope young master can forgive me. The waiter hurriedly apologized. Okay, I won't make things difficult for you. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly, looked up at the three people of the blood hall, and said, "The three of you, may I have a word with you?" The three of them were stunned. What did he mean? Was he trying to get close to them? Get closer? Don't you want to search for treasures in the heavenly cloud ocean? I know a place where a legendary treasure is hidden, but we haven't been able to get it because our cultivation is not enough. But seeing that the three of you are very strong, I think it shouldn't be a problem. Qin Feiyang said. Legendary level heaven-defying divine item? The three of them looked at each other, their eyes full of greed. Where is it? Then, the three of them looked at Qin Feiyang and asked eagerly. It's not far. If the three of you are interested, we can join hands and have a try. Qin Feiyang smiled. The three of them looked at each other again, and a trace of killing intent flashed in their eyes. They nodded and said, "Of course we are interested in such a good thing. Brother, we have a bad attitude before. Please forgive us." There was a hint of flattery in their tone. It's okay. After all, the three of you are disciples of the Blood Hall. Naturally, you are superior to ordinary people like us. Qin Feiyang smiled slightly. Don't talk so much. The disciples of the Blood Hall are human beings, and so are ordinary people. Everyone is equal, right? The attitude of the three of them was completely different from before. However, Qin Feiyang had already felt the killing intent in their eyes. Yes, everyone is equal. Qin Feiyang nodded with a smile and asked, "Then shall we set off now?" Of course. Things might change if we delay. The three of them couldn't wait to get up and cordially put Qin Feiyang in the middle, as if they were afraid that he would run away, and walked toward the door. "Three lords, the bill hasn't been settled yet." The waiter hurriedly looked at the three of them and said timidly. Settle the bill? We are disciples of the Blood Hall. It's your honor to come to your shabby restaurant. How dare you ask us to settle the bill? Are you going to stay here forever? The three of them suddenly looked cold. We wouldn't dare. Take care, my lords. The waiter's face turned pale, and he hurriedly nodded and smiled flatteringly. The three of them sneered and walked straight out of the restaurant. Qin Feiyang looked at the three of them and then at the waiter, and then nodded to Xingde behind him. Xingde understood. He took out hundreds of divine gems and put them on the table next to him, and said, "Is the bill for 2 tables enough?" Yes. The waiter nodded repeatedly and bowed, "Thank you, my lord." Xingde shook his head and then chased after them with Yuqing, Qin Feiyang, and the three people of the Blood Hall. When they caught up with Qin Feiyang, they were surprised to find that Qin Feiyang was actually talking and laughing with the three people of the Blood Hall. What is Qin Dage doing? Yuqing looked suspiciously at Qin Feiyang and secretly asked. I don't know. We don't need to know. We just need to follow. Xingde replied coldly. When Yuqing heard this, she glanced at Xingde, who had a cold face. Was this person emotionless? Not long after. Qin Feiyang and the others left Jinyuan City and flew toward the mountain range in front. Not long after Qin Feiyang and the others left, a guard rushed to the city gate and then posted a notice on both sides of the city gate. This was the arrest warrant for Qin Feiyang and the others from the Blood Hall. Not only was there a portrait of Qin Feiyang on it, but there were also portraits of Xingde and Yuqing. Arrest warrant for Qin Feiyang? He has already entered the Western continent? No way. He shouldn't have the guts. After all, the Western continent is the Blood Hall's territory. Isn't he courting death by coming to the Western continent? Just like the restaurant, the people at the city gate were in an uproar. Moreover, it was not only Jinyuan City. At this moment, all the cities in the Western continent, including those small villages and towns, had issued arrest warrants for Qin Feiyang. The news that Qin Feiyang had entered the Western continent immediately spread like wildfire. Almost everyone felt that it was very unbelievable. How could he do such a suicidal thing? At the same time, the reward on the arrest warrant also made countless people crazy. A core disciple and 2 supreme-level heaven-defying treasures, not to mention ordinary people, even those rich and powerful families were envious. Therefore, a storm of searching for Qin Feiyang set off in the Western continent. Back to Qin Feiyang. At this moment, they had already left Jinyuan City and appeared in the sky above a valley. Suddenly, Qin Feiyang stopped. The 3 from the Blood Hall also stopped and looked at Qin Feiyang suspiciously. Qin Feiyang turned to look at the 3 and said with a smile, "I suddenly remembered that I seem to have remembered wrongly. That legendary level heaven-defying treasure is not in the heavenly cloud ocean. How could you remember wrongly? You must be playing with us." The 3's eyes suddenly flashed with killing intent. "How would I dare to play with you?" Qin Feiyang smiled bitterly and then said, "I really remembered wrongly. It's not in the heavenly cloud ocean." "Then where is it?" The 3 frowned. Qin Feiyang thought for a while and grinned, "It's on me." "On you?" The 3 were slightly stunned. Why was there something wrong with these words? Suddenly, when they saw the smile on Qin Feiyang's face, a cold light surged in their eyes, and they shouted, "You're really playing with us. Huh, you finally realized. I thought you would continue to be so stupid. Don't use your brain to think about it. Would I give you a legendary level heaven-defying treasure?" Qin Feiyang's face was full of ridicule. "You're courting death." The 3 flew into a rage and punched toward Qin Feiyang. "It's not me who's courting death, it's you." Qin Feiyang smiled faintly and looked at Xingde. Xingde immediately took a step forward and landed in front of Qin Feiyang. His divine aura roared, and the 3 were immediately imprisoned in the void. The 3 immediately looked at Xingde in shock. What a powerful divine aura. Did you see that? Great perfection, sovereign realm. You're just imperishable realm cultivators. What are you? Do you really think we're playboys? Ridiculous. White-eyed Wolf's face was full of disdain. Great perfection, sovereign realm. When the 3 heard this, their faces turned incomparably pale. Xingde looked at the 3 coldly and said, "Do you know who the young master is? How dare you attack him?" "Young master?" When they heard Xingde address Qin Feiyang this way, the 3's hearts were in turmoil. A grand perfection sovereign realm supreme existence was actually the servant of this hedonistic young master? Who exactly was this person? Could he be the son of some big shot in the upper echelon of the Blood Hall? However, even if he was the son of those big shots, he wouldn't receive such treatment. The more the 3 thought about it, the more terrified they became. How terrifying was this person that they had encountered? "Do you know this person?" Qin Feiyang didn't say much. As he waved his hand, the phantom of a purple-clothed young man appeared. He was 1.8 meters tall, had a tall figure, and looked dignified. He seemed to be full of arrogance. Looking at the purple-clothed young man, the 3's faces were full of shock and suspicion. "You know him?" Qin Feiyang asked. "Of course we know him. But only we know him. He doesn't know us. He's the Hall Master's grandson, Pei Wanli. He's the young Hall Master of our Blood Hall." The 3 hurriedly replied. Chapter 3291. Pei Wanli, Qin Feiyang murmured and turned to look at Xingde with a questioning look. As master's confidant, Xingde should also know about Pei Wanli. That's right. He is Pei Wanli, the grandson of the Blood Hall master. Xingde nodded. Qin Feiyang pondered for a while before looking at the three people from the Blood Hall and asked, "Can you guys contact him?" "Us?" The three of them were stunned and quickly said, "How can we contact him? With our status, we don't even have the qualifications to contact him." "So, you guys are worthless?" Qin Feiyang chuckled. Hearing this, Xingde was ready to make a move. "Don't kill us, although we can't see him, we can think of a way, give us a chance, we can definitely do it," the three of them quickly shouted, their eyes filled with fear. "Are you sure?" Qin Feiyang stopped Xingde and looked at the three of them. "I'm sure." The three of them nodded. "Good." Qin Feiyang nodded with a smile and looked at Xingde, "Let them go." Xingde retracted his aura. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed slightly and said with a smile, "I definitely can't trust you guys easily, so you guys have to swear in front of me." "Swear?" The three of them were slightly stunned. He actually wanted them to swear? This person must be stupid. Who didn't know that swearing was equivalent to fart? Xingde and Yuqing couldn't help but be stunned when they heard this. Didn't he have a control-type secret technique? It would be better to directly control them. What was the point of swearing? However, what they didn't notice was that Qin Feiyang and White-Eyed Wolf seemed to have a trace of hope in their eyes. "Don't agree?" Qin Feiyang looked at the three of them and asked with a smile. "Agree, agree. We'll swear now." The three of them came back to their senses and quickly nodded. There were actually people in the world who believed in the so-called oath. It seemed that even if this person had a great background, he was just an idiot. "Okay. I'll teach you guys." Qin Feiyang smiled. "That doesn't need to be taught, right? Who doesn't know how to swear?" The three waved their hands. "Cut the crap. Do what I tell you to do." Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows. All right, all right, all right." The three of them nodded. Qin Feiyang said, "First, take out a drop of blood essence." "Blood essence?" The three of them were stunned. "Do you want to die?" White-Eyed Wolf said angrily. "No, no." The three of them hurriedly shook their heads and quickly refined a drop of blood essence. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, "When you make the oath, you have to say that we will serve Qin Feiyang for life and will never betray him. If we violate this oath, may the heavens and earth destroy us." "Is this any different from when we usually swear?" The three of them looked at each other. "Wait a minute." But soon after, their eyes trembled. Moreover, it was as if they had seen a ghost. Their faces were filled with shock and fear. To serve Qin Feiyang for life, Qin Feiyang. They slowly turned their heads and looked at Qin Feiyang. What did he say? Did they hear it wrong? Why did he say that they would serve Qin Feiyang? "Yes. I am the Qin Feiyang you are looking for." Qin Feiyang chuckled. When the two of them heard this, it was like a bolt from the blue. Their minds rumbled. The person in front of them was Qin Feiyang? The person holding the big fat cat and acting like a playboy was actually Qin Feiyang, whose name shook the sky cloud realm? This was too much of a coincidence. Previously in the restaurant, it was said that Qin Feiyang might be in Jinyuan City. Was he really in Jinyuan City? And he had been sitting next to them all this time? At this moment, they couldn't help but want to cry. Why were they so unlucky to run into this fierce person? No. They didn't run into him. It was clearly them who ran into him. Although they said that he was powerful, in fact, they didn't have the courage to face Qin Feiyang at all. After all, who didn't know how terrifying this person was? Meeting him was tantamount to meeting the Grim Reaper. Especially before, they were arrogant in front of Qin Feiyang. Now, just thinking about it, they couldn't help but break out in cold sweat. Even an existence like Old Hai was forced to self-destruct by this person, let alone small characters like them. With a casual move, he could crush them alive. I'm sorry, the more the three of them thought about it, the more scared they became. In the end, they knelt in the void powerlessly and cried out in despair, I'm really sorry. We were blind before. Please forgive us and give us a way out, huh? Qin Feiyang was slightly stunned and said suspiciously, did I say I would kill you? With such courage, they actually dared to run to the sky cloud realm to search for treasures. It was really admirable. In fact, he himself didn't realize how terrifying he was in the eyes of these people. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that he was like a devil. How could the three of them listen to him now? Their minds were already blank. They kept kowtowing and begging for mercy. Xingde and Yuqing couldn't help but want to laugh. They were so arrogant before, but now that they knew Qin Feiyang's identity, they immediately kowtowed and begged for mercy. This change was too big. Qin Feiyang also helplessly rubbed his forehead. The world only knew that he was a ruthless person, but in fact, he was really a kind person. Shouldn't one look at people's hearts? Shut up. Impatient, Qin Feiyang coldly shouted and a murderous aura rushed towards the three of them. The three of them quivered and quickly shut their mouths. Their faces were pale as they looked at Qin Feiyang with fear. Qin Feiyang shook his head. The psychological quality of these Blood Hall disciples was too weak. He then said, as long as you swear, I will let you go. Good, good, good. The three of them nodded like they were pounding garlic. Come, I will teach you, Qin Feiyang taught them step by step. When the three of them swore, blood clouds immediately surged in the sky. Following closely. 3 blood-red marks soared into the sky and merged with the three's blood essence. Then, they disappeared into the three's bodies. Xingde and Yuqing looked at the sky in surprise. Why did a vision suddenly appear? Could it be related to the oath? That couldn't be right. They had lived for so many years, but they had never seen a vision from the sky when they swore an oath. Qin Feiyang didn't explain to the two of them. He looked at the three of them and said with a smile, the oath is done. Go back quickly. Are you really letting us go? The three of them looked at Qin Feiyang in a daze. What else? Am I really going to kill you? Qin Feiyang raised the corner of his mouth and pursed it with a hint of playfulness. The three of them looked at each other and hurriedly got up. They turned around and rushed away as if they were running for their lives. He actually let us go? This person is really stupid. This is the first time I've seen someone who actually believes in an oath. He's so naive that it's ridiculous. Don't talk so much. This is a good opportunity to make a contribution. Let's go back and report to the temple master. But don't you think it's strange that when we swore an oath, there was a vision from the sky? It's indeed a little strange. But this must be Qin Feiyang's trick. Don't worry about it. The three of them secretly discussed with a hint of mockery in their eyes. He even believed in an oath. It seemed that this Qin Feiyang was just so. Boom! But at this moment, above the sky, a deafening sound of thunder suddenly rang out. The three of them were shocked and hurriedly looked up. The three of them hadn't gone far. Qin Feiyang, Yuqing, and White-Eyed Wolf also heard the sound of thunder clearly. Yuqing and Xingde also immediately looked up at the sky suspiciously. Qin Feiyang and White-Eyed Wolf's eyes lit up. Crack! In the next moment, 3 streaks of blood lightning fell from the sky and blasted towards the three of them at an extremely terrifying speed. What's going on? The three of them turned pale with fright and hurriedly ran away. However, at the same time, the mark of the blood oath that had entered their bodies before suddenly shattered. They all spat out mouthfuls of blood. The 3 streaks of blood lightning from the sky also instantly drowned them. Ah! Accompanied by 3 shrill screams, the 3 of them were instantly destroyed. Struck by lightning? Xingde and Yuqing were astonished. How many evil things had the 3 of them done? That's why they were struck by lightning. At the same time, Qin Feiyang and White-Eyed Wolf looked at each other with a hint of shock in their eyes. Not only was the blood oath true, but the power of the divine punishment was also so terrifying. The 3 of them were Eternal Realm experts, but they were actually killed in an instant. No. It should be said that they were obliterated. Nothing was left. This was too terrifying. Phew. White-Eyed Wolf took a deep breath and looked at Qin Feiyang. He said, I feel that this thing is more effective than the mark of slavery and the puppet technique. As long as the oath is made, you can't even betray us in your heart. I also feel that it's more effective than the control secret technique. Qin Feiyang nodded. Because the 3 of them didn't do anything to betray them before, but they were struck by the divine punishment. This meant that they must have been communicating secretly. Communicating secretly couldn't escape the obliteration of the blood oath. If used properly, it could become a great trump card. What are you talking about? Xingde and Yuqing heard this and looked at Qin Feiyang and White-Eyed Wolf in confusion. Could it be that it wasn't as they thought, that the 3 of them were struck by lightning because they had done too many evil things, but that it had something to do with the oath they had made? Huh. Qin Feiyang and White-Eyed Wolf looked at each other and couldn't help but smile mysteriously. Xingde and Yuqing looked at each other, their faces full of helplessness. Why couldn't they stop keeping them in suspense? If they didn't get to the bottom of such a strange thing, they would feel terrible. The details are confidential for now. You just need to know that their deaths are indeed related to the oath they had made. Qin Feiyang smiled. Xingde and Xingde were shocked when they heard this. It really was related to the oath they had made. What kind of oath was that? Everyone knew that oaths were too fake. Some people even made vows every day, but they had never seen anyone suffer the wrath of the heavens. But at this moment, the oaths of the 3 of them had come true? How could this not be strange? No one would believe it if this was told to others. The experiment of the blood oath has succeeded, but we have to find the person again. We can't wait for Pei Wanli to come out of the blood hall by himself. White-Eyed Wolf looked at Qin Feiyang and said. Blood oath? Yuqing and Xingde were stunned. Was that the name of the oath? I didn't expect the 3 of them to trick Pei Wanli out at all. It was purely for the experiment of the blood oath. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. Then how are you going to lure him out? White-Eyed Wolf was suspicious. Chapter 3293. Qin Feiyang lowered his head and muttered to himself. Boss Xing glanced at Qin Feiyang, thought for a while, and said, why don't we cater to his liking? Cater to his liking? Qin Feiyang was slightly taken aback. He thought for a while and said, even if we cater to his liking, we need to know what he likes. Do you know what he likes? I don't know. Boss Xing shook his head. Although he knew about Pei Wanli, he didn't have much contact with him, let alone know much about him. Yuqing pondered for a while, then looked at Qin Feiyang and said, people like to eat, drink, and play. We'll try them one by one. He'll take the bait. It's true that he likes to eat, drink, and play. But for someone of his status, what hasn't he eaten and played? Besides, the news that we've entered the Western continent has spread. The master of the Blood Hall knows that I'm a vengeful person. He definitely won't allow him to leave the Blood Hall. In fact, whether this method will work or not is one thing. The main thing is that it's too time-consuming. Qin Feiyang shook his head. Yueqing fell silent. If they really tried them one by one, it would indeed be a waste of time. But this was the only way she could think of. The white-eyed wolf waved his paw impatiently and said, "Why are you thinking so much? Let's just sneak into the blood hall and drag that little bastard out." Sneak into the blood hall? Yueqing and Boss Xing looked at each other speechlessly. They had just escaped from the blood hall. Now they had to go back. Only a fool would do that. Sneaking into the blood hall is indeed worth a try. Qin Feiyang pondered for a while and nodded. What? Boss Xing and Boss Xing looked at each other. They really wanted to give it a try? Well, they were wrong. They were not fools, but lunatics. Because only lunatics would do such a thing. Qin Feiyang turned to Yueqing and asked with a smile, "Miss Yueqing, what's your plan now?" Yueqing pondered for a while and shook her head. "I don't know." Qin Feiyang said, "I think you should return to the eastern continent now." Return to the eastern continent now? Yueqing was stunned. "I know you can't accept it. However, the rise of a force is not something that can be achieved at will. It has to be done step by step. Actually, you don't have to be so anxious. The Tianyue Tower has just gained a firm foothold in the eastern continent. It's entirely possible to stabilize it first before considering expanding to the other 3 continents." Qin Feiyang smiled. "I understand what you mean. But now, I've only just arrived at the western continent, and I haven't done anything at all. To return with my tail between my legs is truly a huge blow." Yueqing looked around, her face full of unwillingness. "What's there to be shocked about? It's very common." Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled. Yueqing pondered for a while and nodded. "All right, I'll go back first. Anyway, I'll only be a burden to you if I stay. Don't misunderstand. I'm not afraid that you'll be a burden to us. I'm afraid that we'll implicate you. The grudge between me and the Blood Hall has reached a point where it can't be resolved tactfully. In the future, it'll be a life and death situation. Therefore, it won't do you any good to stay by my side now." Qin Feiyang smiled slightly. "Is it that serious? No matter how deep the grudge is, it can be resolved peacefully," Yueqing said. "Peacefully," Qin Feiyang murmured, and a cold light slowly emerged in his eyes. "If it's purely against me, I can consider resolving it peacefully with them. However, they're not just against me. They shouldn't have attacked the people around me." Thinking back, on the day he married the mermaid princess, Old Hai and Pei Wanli went to the Great Qin Empire and forcefully abducted the mermaid princess without any explanation. Moreover, they severely injured the guardian of the 3rd floor of the divine site, Fire Python, and almost killed him. There was also the Sword Emperor and the other 3. Even if his Qi wasn't crippled, he wouldn't have any strength to fight back when facing such a powerful blood hall, let alone escape. Was there a need to torture them like this? Therefore, this hatred and anger couldn't be resolved with the word peace. Besides, if he had to swallow this insult, then was he worthy of being a man? "All right." Yueqing nodded. She couldn't help but envy the people around Qin Feiyang. They were completely protecting them like family. How good would it be if there was such a man in this world who would protect her like this? Unfortunately, it was just a dream. Qin Feiyang waved his hand, and Snowflake appeared. "Send her back to Cloud Sea City." "Okay." Snowflake replied. Buzz. But at this moment, Yueqing's divine voice transmission stone suddenly vibrated. Yueqing was slightly stunned. She took out the divine voice transmission stone and checked it. She smiled and said, "So it's Sister Meow Meow." Meow? Xingda was suspicious. "Yes. Yueqing nodded and activated the divine voice transmission stone. At this moment, a woman in a colorful dress appeared. Who else could it be but Yi Miao? However, at this moment, there were two people beside Yi Miao. Seeing these two people, Qin Feiyang and the others changed their expressions. Because one of them was the Blood Hall Master. They were dumbfounded. Why was Yi Miao with the Blood Hall's Hall Master? The other person was an old man in a black robe. His entire body was wrapped in a black robe, and even his face couldn't be seen clearly. He was filled with mystery. Qin Feiyang had seen this person before. It was the black-robed man who had repeatedly sent messages to the Vice Alliance leader. He's the Dark Guard commander of the Blood Hall. The Dark Guard of the Blood Hall is equivalent to the law enforcer of the Demon Hall. It's said that this person has mastered the law of time, and his strength isn't inferior to the major figures at all. Xingde stared at the black-robed man's shadow and secretly explained to Qin Feiyang. Dark Guard Commander, Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed. It seemed that even if he killed the Great Deacon, the overall loss to the Blood Hall wouldn't be too great. Sister Miao Miao, what's going on? Yueqing looked at Yi Miao and asked. At this moment, Yi Miao's face was also full of panic and fear. Let me tell you. The Blood Hall Master took a step forward and looked at Qin Feiyang. You're really hiding your strength. How long have you been in the Sky Cloud realm? You've actually cultivated a force like the Tianyue Tower. Although Qin Feiyang had changed his appearance, from the eyes of Xingde and Yueqing, they could see that this purple-robed young man holding a big fat cat was the Qin Feiyang they were looking for. Qin Feiyang was stunned. Xingde, Yueqing, and White-Eyed Wolf were also stunned. Did the Blood Hall think that the Tianyue Tower was a force under Qin Feiyang? However, you're still one step behind. The Mermaid Emperor and White-Winged King haven't been found yet, and now another subordinate has fallen into my hands. Tell me, how should I deal with it? The Blood Hall Master looked at Qin Feiyang, his face full of sarcasm. Qin Feiyang was speechless. How could he judge that the Tianyue Tower was a force under his control? He and Yueqing and Yi Miao could at most be considered as ordinary friends. You misunderstood. Yueqing came back to her senses and hurriedly looked at the Blood Hall Master. The Tianyue Tower is mine and Sister Miao Miao's. It has nothing to do with Qin Feiyang. Don't hurt her. Do you think I'm stupid? If you have nothing to do with each other, would you be with him now? The Blood Hall Master sneered. Yueqing couldn't explain. Because this was the best proof. If she were the Blood Hall Master, she definitely wouldn't listen to her explanation. Qin Feiyang frowned, looked at the Blood Hall Master, and asked, So, now you're going to use Yi Miao's life to force me to show up? Then, are you going to show up or not? The Blood Hall Master smiled playfully. First, you used the Sword Emperor's life to force me to show up at the exchange meet, and now you're using the same trick again. Can't the Blood Hall be a little more shameless? Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows. We've already come to this point. Is face still important? The Hall Master of the Blood Hall smiled indifferently. Okay. Then kill her. Qin Feiyang shrugged. What else could he do when encountering such a shameless person? He couldn't really risk his life for Yi Miao. Although he valued friendship and righteousness, he wasn't so kind as to help someone he wasn't familiar with. His friendship and righteousness were limited to the people around him. The Blood Hall Master and the black-robed old man were stunned. He didn't care at all. Qin Dage, however, Yueqing and Yi Miao panicked. Especially Yi Miao, her face was ghastly pale, and she looked at Qin Feiyang like a helpless child. Qin Feiyang ignored her directly. He looked at the Blood Hall Master and said indifferently, If you have time to think about this, why don't you think about how to defeat me fair and square? After all, I've always won the competition between us." After that, Qin Feiyang raised the corners of his mouth slightly with a hint of sarcasm. Then, he turned his head and looked away. The Blood Hall Master clenched his fists tightly after hearing this. If one were to talk about the Blood Hall's greatest scar, it would undoubtedly be the repeated losses they had suffered at Qin Feiyang's hands. Therefore, Qin Feiyang's ruthless words were equivalent to tearing open this scar and causing it to bleed profusely. "You don't care?" "Sure. Commander of the Secret Guards, kill her!" the Blood Hall Master yelled. The commander of the Secret Guards immediately unleashed a terrifying aura as he grabbed Yi Miao's head. "Stop it!" Yuqing immediately yelled. She then looked at Qin Feiyang and exclaimed, "Qin Dage, please be kind and save Sister Miao Miao. I'll kneel before you." Saying this, she actually knelt before Qin Feiyang. Xing De frowned and transmitted his voice, "Young master, there's no need to meddle in this." Qin Feiyang remained silent. The Blood Hall Master's eyes flickered with murderous intent when he saw Qin Feiyang standing still. He yelled, "Kill!" The commander of the Secret Guards exerted a little force on his arm. Yi Miao's head immediately began to bleed. She stood there trembling in despair. "Qin Dage," Yuqing yelled in despair. "That's enough." Qin Feiyang turned around and glanced at Yuqing. He then looked at the Blood Hall Master and asked, "Tell me, what do you want? I thought you didn't care." The Blood Hall Master smiled and said, "If you want me to let her go, give me your ruler divine weapon in exchange." "What? The ancient castle in exchange?" Qin Feiyang was startled. "Huh," the white-eyed wolf burst out laughing while holding his stomach. Was this old man out of his mind? He was asking them to give him their ruler divine weapon in exchange for someone who had nothing to do with them? His naivety was truly admirable. This time, even Yuqing was silent. Although she really wanted to save Yi Miao Miao, asking Qin Feiyang to exchange a sovereign divine weapon for Yi Miao Miao was indeed a little too much. The Blood Hall Master was unaware of the relationship between the Tianyue Pavilion and Qin Feiyang. However, she clearly knew that Qin Feiyang had helped them out of kindness. It was his duty not to help them. Therefore, she could only resign herself to fate. You're tuning into the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.